batting order. Flesko, Lofton, and Tucker make up the outfield. Jones, Blauser, Lemke, and McGriff make up the infield. Eddie Perez to catch, and Greg Maddux will be making the start. For Greg, it'll be his ninth start, and one of the reasons we rush through that starting lineup is that when Maddux is ready to go, Maddux is ready to go, Pete.
And he does throw strikes. He starts off the line of DeShields, though, with a pitch that was low, ball one. DeShields batting .258. A couple of home runs, 9 RBIs on the year. And he bounces one up the middle, and Blauser can't get to it. Base hit center field. So a good start for the Cardinals as DeShields leads off the first with a base hit, and that'll bring up Willie McGee. Hitting .298 for the year with a couple of homers and 6 RBIs. His playing time has been limited by a hamstring problem. Been used a lot this year as a pinch hitter.
Pete, we showed you some numbers on Greg Maddux. We had to rush through them because he was ready to pitch. We talk about him and some of the things he does that are amazing. Those numbers are absolutely amazing. 3-to-1 is exceptional. He has exceeded that every year.
And look at this year, 10-to-1. Strikeouts to walks. 1 ball, no strikes on McGee. Chipper Jones playing in the grass at third. Against a pitcher like Maddux, you often see a team in a situation like this just trying to get on the board any way they can and bunt the runner over in the first inning.
Well, you figure you're not going to get many, so if you get a shot at one, you better take it.
DeShields chased back. He has 8 stolen bases this year in 9 tries. Count goes to 2-0. Very unusual that Maddux has fallen behind the first 2 hitters tonight. He had a string of 23 straight hitters a couple of starts ago where he got the first strike in.
What was his ratio? 62 and 15 out of 78 pitches. Strikes to balls. Amazing.
Here's the 2-0. And there's a strike in the outside corner. 2-1. Greg Bonet calling the balls and strikes tonight.
Eric Gregg at first, Frank Pulley and Bob Davidson complete the rest of the umpiring crew.
Veteran crew this weekend.
And one of the best. Maddux will tell you that one of the things that he doesn't do well, maybe the only thing he doesn't do real well, is hold runners on. They are 5 for 5, but what he does do to try to help his catcher is vary the time that he holds it, try to make the runner commit, change speeds to first, tap throw.
He'll pay more attention now, too. If he's leading a game by 3 or 4 runs, he'll sometimes completely ignore that base runner over at first. But in this situation where the Cardinals have a chance to get on the board first.
In my mind, that's smart baseball. He does so many things. You see so many pitchers get caught up worrying about the wrong thing with the lead. Because the worst thing that can happen to you with a lead right now, as you pointed out, is different. Worst thing that happens to him if he ignores Delino DeShields is he concedes a base. The worst thing that happens if he doesn't pay attention to the hitter is you give up 2 runs in this situation. So Maddux having to divide his attention.
That'll be out of play, and the count of Willie McGee is even 2-2. Ron Gatt waits in the on-deck circle. There goes DeShields. The 2-2 is high and away. The throw by Perez right on the money. That's the first man Eddie Perez has gunned down all year in 7 tries. And that extra work that Eddie was putting in, practicing just that last week with Pat Corrales and Ned Yost, pays off.
Not the easiest of pitches to throw on, and a good running jump. It was a changeup up and away. 1 step on the way, right on the money, and maybe a little gift for the Braves.
1 out, base is empty, and McGee fouls off the 3-2 pitch. Only the second time this year DeShields has been caught.
Don't lip read, folks.
Down and strikes Willie McGee. Out number 2 here in the top of the first.
Got him to the count he wanted. Here comes the changeup. Boy, does that ball move in a perfect spot. Starts it off knee-high. It's a strike halfway there. It's out of the strike zone when it settles into Eddie Perez. His glove, good pitch.
2 gone now. That'll bring up Ron Gant, hitting just .228 for the year. He has 5 homers, including one that beat the Braves in St. Louis. And the one disturbing mark in Gant's ledger right now is his strikeouts. He is really striking out a lot this year. Leads the National League. He spanned 43 times in 123 at-bats. That's better than 1 every 3 times up.
He's fouled off a couple here, but last week in a game that the Cardinals won against the Braves in St. Louis, he didn't foul it off. Fastball from Mike Bielecki came back out over the plate, and that got out there a long way in a hurry.
The only home run hit by the Cardinals against the Braves so far this year. The 0-2 on the way, just off the outside corner. 1 ball, 2 strikes. The number is not that high, 8 home runs, but it seems like every one of those 8 has come at a time that either gave them the lead or won them a ball game. Yep. Got him outside corner. Second strikeout of the inning for Maddox. And the leadoff single comes to nothing for the Cardinals. No score as we head to the bottom of the first.
Lead it off. Michael Tucker in the 2 spot. Chipper Jones will bat third. Again, hitting cleanup, it's Fred McGriff. Ryan Klesko to follow. Mark Lemke moves into the 6th spot. Jeff Blauser will bat 7th. Eddie Perez 8th. And completing it will be Greg Maddux. The Cardinal defense has Ganton left, Langford in center, McGee in right. Mabry, DeShields, Clayton, and Gaetti from first to third. To put DeFelice behind the plate, and a good young pitcher on the mound. There's a look at Alan Bennis. They say that you're supposed to improve. Bennis now coming up on 25 years of age. And some of the keys you look for are better control and more dominance. He is certainly dominating hitters this year, not getting a whole lot of runs to play with. He's 3-4 with a 3 earned run average. And Pete, the league is only hitting .220 against Alan Bennis. I think he's one to keep an eye on. He's going to be a good one.
13-game winner last year. Kenny Lofton at .357 on the year leads it off. He has a couple of home runs and 16 RBIs. He was 2 out of 8 in the Marlins series, and he takes a strike in the outside corner 0-1. Talking with Bobby Cox about Alan Bennis before the game. And he made an interesting point, one which I'd like to get your comment on, Don. First the pitch, a little high ball 1. Bennis only pitched 13 games in AAA before moving up to the big leagues last year as a regular starter for the Cardinals. And Bobby said he felt that maybe he was rushed just a little because he was very inconsistent early in the year and then began to develop a little more consistency as the year went on. And he said that's not uncommon for a guy who has not had a lot of experience. You might be a little in awe of some of the hitters up here when you first come up.
Well, I think that varies from person to person, and having gotten to know him a little bit the last couple of years, I don't think he's been in awe of anybody up here.
Here's the 3-1, and leadoff walk to Kenny Lofton to start the bottom of the first.
I think there is no timetable, Pete. Each situation is different. Each player is different. Each pitcher is different. You see some guys that they're ready to pitch the first day out of college at the big league level. They were taught at a young age to do it the right way. They were taught to throw strikes, stick to just getting people out, and don't worry about who you're facing. And then others never learn. So it might have been that way in his case, but I don't think it's because of his personality. He is certainly not in awe of it.
Here's Michael Tucker now, batting .341. He's gone to the high sock look tonight. 4 homers and 22 RBIs for Michael. Just 2 out of 9 against the Marlins. 1 ball, no strikes.
Bennis not exactly over the top, kind of a high 3/4. With a runner on base, a guy who can steal sometimes has a tendency to rush it forward. Never allows him to get himself to get his tilt back. He throws downhill, and when you're rushing out there and you can't tilt, you're going to bounce a lot of pitches.
Nobody out. Lofton edging off first. Kenny with 14 steals and 23 tries this year. He's going. Got a good jump. DeFelice has a great arm, though. Got him. Mike DeFelice has now thrown out 10 out of 17 attempted base stealers for the Cardinals this year.
Okay, one for you, one for them. I think we're all even. Boy, did he get a running jump. Not a good pitch, DeFelice. One-step throw again. A little bit of a sidearm throw. It's evened out. Good throw.
Here's the 1-1 out of Tucker, and he comes up empty on that one. Michael struck out 4 times Wednesday night against the Marlins. That's something he doesn't very often do. Strikeout period. He's not a guy that strikes out a lot, makes contact most of the time. That 4 strikeout game, a real aberration in his record. 2-2 the count.
Bennett can do 2 things with his fastball. He can cut it in. Actually, 3 things. He can sink it, and he throws a 4-seamer that he'll ride up and away from left-handed hitters. There's the sinker.
Into center field. Late jump for Langford, but he gets there and down on both knees to make the catch. 2 down. You might see outfielders on every visiting ball club their first time into this ballpark misjudge a few at first.
Well, it's a different background, and you remember it took the Braves. For the Braves, they were a visiting ball club here for the first couple of weeks, but they've learned to make the adjustments. A little bit of a different background, and it takes a while. Now, I would venture to say that a lot of outfielders, Pete, will probably take outfield practice off of live hitting. They'll be out there shagging during BP.
0-1 on Chipper Jones, up to 318 now for the year. 9 hits in his last 19 trips and 7 RBIs in his last 5 games. He's driven in 28 runs now in the year. 1-1 the count on Chipper. A strike. A ball and 2 strikes now on Chipper Jones. It's even 2-2.
Every young pitcher throws the way he does, probably because of the way somebody else threw influenced him. If you're looking for something simple to copy, watch that.
Full count now, 3-2. Yeah, nothing very complicated about that motion.
The bigger your delivery is, the bigger your windup, the more chances there is for something to go wrong. This is as simple as it gets. I love this delivery.
Down and strikes Chipper Jones, so a good start for both pitchers. No score at the end of an inning. John Mabry due up against Greg Maddux. Langford has been on fire since getting off the disabled list, hitting right at 400 now for the year. 6 homers and 18 RBIs. He leads the club in homers. He is 3rd in the club in RBIs, and he missed the first 18 games of the season, recuperating from shoulder surgery. 1-1 the count. They haven't had their lineup together all year, the Cardinals. They've had injuries at some point to almost everybody on their ball club.
We'll show you in a little bit the people who are there, and it's almost like a big chunk of the lineup is out of there. Some very, very important people not able to play. Dimitri Young is not in there. You take Brian Jordan out. You remember how important Honeycutt is coming out of the bullpen. You got Donovan Osborne out of there, catcher. That's a lot of people to give up and still try to compete.
Here's the 1-2 on the way. Strike 3 call inside corner at the knees. Langford. Not sure about that one. It's the 3rd strikeout for Maddux.
2 of them called. We've seen him do this so many times. Started inside. The hitter backs out of the way. His late movement sends it right back over the corner. It's almost like a left-hander slider.
That'll bring up Gary Gaetti, hitting .218 with 3 home runs and 16 RBIs. 1 out here in the 2nd. Gaetti hits one right back up the middle. Maddux, how about that stop?
Skate save.
2 gone. See if he's okay. Jeff Porter and Bobby Cox out to make sure. He gets hit at least once a game by a ball hit up the middle.
Well, he has down and away movement from lefties and righties, so they're going to take that ball back up the middle. Skate save, right up in the air. First of all, getting your foot on it is a good enough effort. But how many people do you know who would look all over and never find it?
Find the
Maddux
ball,
looked
yeah.
right up, and there it was.
Looked like it got him on the inside of the right leg.
Braves don't need another starter.
No. Take another look here. Yeah, right above the ankle.
Right about the ankle bone.
But look how quickly he found that ball. That ball never even hit the ground. Greg says he's all right. And the batter will be John Mabry. We showed you all the players on the disabled list. They've had a bunch of injuries to players who have not gone on the DL. We told you about Delino DeShields. He missed about a week with a bad ankle. Gary Gaetti missed about a week with a strained groin. Ray Lankford out the first 2.5 weeks, recuperating from shoulder surgery. And John Mabry right now is playing with a bad right knee. 0-1 the count. Tony La Russa said about that, though, he said what that does is gives me a chance to play some younger guys. Some of these younger guys are very impressive right now. It'll make our bench stronger when everybody gets back. Dipper Jones. Across to McGriff. Another easy inning for Greg Maddux, but he is limping a little. Favoring that right leg just a tad after delivering that last pitch. Still no score.
That's Jeff Porter there. Jeff had the ace bandage, and they're going to wrap it just in case. It hit him right above the ankle bone, and don't need taking any chances.
No score. Bottom half of inning 2. Fred McGriff leads off, hitting .270 with 6 homers on the year, and he pops the first one back out of play to count 0-1. McGriff, Klesko, and Lemke do up here in the bottom half of the second. Inside corner, 0-2.
Dennis is sure of himself. You have a guy 25 years old taking charge, deciding what he wants to do.
1 ball, 2 strikes. See if he got enough of it. I don't think he did. Off the handle a little bit. And right fielder Willie McGee is there for the catch. 1 gone.
Time for us to remind you folks that this telecast is authorized under broadcasting rights granted by the Atlanta National League Baseball Club. It's intended solely for the entertainment of our audience. Any publication, rebroadcast, or retransmission of the pictures or descriptions of the game without the express written consent of the Atlanta National League Baseball Club is prohibited.
Now Ryan Klesko hitting .257 with 5 homers on the year. Didn't play in the Florida series. You can see that left wrist of his still taped. It's been bothering him just a little bit. Fouls away the first one. 0-1.
It's a good pitch to test it on right there too. Go with your best fastball upstairs. It's hard to drive that anyway, but you can find out if how strong a guy is and how well he is.
The 0-1 on the way is outside. 1 ball, 1 strike on Klesko. Two and 1. So far, he's trying to keep everything away from Ryan.
That's the way he started McGriff, and he got ahead, then came in on him.
Here's the 2-1 delivery. That evens the count. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
See how he makes that fastball out there do 2 things? A little bit more velocity and not quite as much movement as Maddux, but a similar philosophy. Ran it away, cut that one back over, and caused Klesko to give up on it.
The 2-2 pitch. That fills the count. Now a 3-2 on the way. Got him with a fastball. That's his second strikeout, out number 2 here in the bottom half of the second. And it'll bring up Mark Lemke. Lemke comes in at 261. He has a couple of home runs and 7 RBIs.
But in going over our notes tonight, something jumped off about Mark Lemke that really surprised me. He is at 261, but he's really struggling against right-handed pitching, Pete. Only hitting about 180 against righties.
Hitting over 400 right-handed. But right at 188 from the left side. And he takes a strike 0-1. He was originally a right-handed hitter. Became a switch hitter while in the minor leagues. So normally he expects to hit better from the right side.
Right.
But that hasn't been the case the last couple of years. 0-2 the count. Last year he hit 268 left-handed, only 219 right-handed. And he was saying that the probable reason for that is he gets more at-bats every year from the left side. This year it's turned around the other way. Struggling from the left side.
And it's still early. All it takes is 2 good ball games to jump it back up there to 260.
Yeah, he's only had 80 at-bats left-handed all year. Here's the 0-2. 1 ball, 2 strikes. I think the number that's really surprising in Mark this year are the strikeouts. 14 strikeouts at 115 at-bats.
Yeah, he's usually about 1 out of every 10 or 12.
In the air, shallow right field. McGee is there. And it's a 1-2-3 inning for Bennis. No score as we head to the 3rd. DeFelice will lead off. His batting average has been going up. Not very high yet. Still just 152. He had his first home run a few days ago. He's driven in 3 runs. Takes ball 1 out of the University of Tennessee. Count even. 1 ball, 1 strike. Cardinals split 2 games in Philadelphia to start off this road trip they're on. DeFelice went 2 for 5 in that series. That caught the corner. It's 1-2. Royce Clayton will follow, and then Alan Bennis.
I think the ball bag was left out in the on-deck circle. There was a little extra equipment that was bothering Greg Bonet. It's gone now. Just want to make sure the catcher doesn't trip over something. That's a minefield anyway when you run over there.
It's not going to make much difference moving that bag. There's a little chopper to the left side. Chipper Jones cuts in front of Blauser and gets him 1 down. 1 away. That'll bring up Royce Clayton, who's been on a little bit of a tear of late. Up to 262 now for the year. He has 4 homers. He has 19 RBIs. He also has 15 doubles this year. He only had 20 doubles all of last year. He had 30 extra base hits all of last year. He's got 20 extra base hits already this year. Throw 1 triple in there. Called strike 0-1. I think it makes a big difference for a player like him getting a chance to play every day. Remember last year it was a shared situation with Ozzie Smith. Off the fist, over the head of Chipper Jones. Long throw from Jeff Blauser. Won't get him. That'll be an infield hit for Royce Clayton. Hit number 2 for the Cardinals off of Maddox.
We've seen that a lot this year already, haven't we? Where the threat of a bunt, the possibility of a bunt, the speed of a hitter has gotten some hits. That's a routine ground ball. If Chipper Jones is back at 3rd, instead Blauser the only guy who can get to it, and Clayton can run. So the result, an infield single.
1 man out, runner at first for the pitcher Alan Bennis, hitting just 118. He's 2 for 17 for the year. One difference in the Cardinal ball club from the Braves ball club is their sacrifice bunts from the pitchers. Alan Bennis, for example, has none this year. Andy Bennis, no sacrifices in 4 starts. Matt Morris, no sacrifices in 7 starts. Brave Stottlemyre has a couple, and Brady Raggio has 1. That's it.
Brave starters last year had about 70.
He is trying to bunt this time. Maybe this is the reason. Maybe they aren't very good at it. McGriff makes the catch there. 2 down.
Not a real good attempt. Pushed at it. Pitch that was hard to bunt. With everybody charging, it's difficult enough as it is to lay one down on the ground. Certainly if you get it in the air, you're going to make it out.
2 gone. Runner still at first for Delino DeShields, who had a base hit and then was caught stealing in the first inning. We are scoreless, top of the third. Out of play, 0-1.
It's interesting watching the different philosophies against Greg Maddux. None of them have worked very well since we've been watching him, but you see more and more ball clubs, it seems, who have been on ball, more and more players who've been on ball clubs who've had a little success against Maddux go after the first pitch. And DeShields has done that. We saw Pittsburgh try that. Usually
got
that's
a beach ball out in right field. That's the reason for the delay here. Yeah, you're right. They try a lot of different things, but I agree with you. We haven't found one that works yet. Maddux 16 and 13 lifetime against the Cardinals with an excellent earned run average, 2.38. He pitched maybe the best regular season game he ever pitched for Atlanta against the Cardinals last year in St. Louis. Off the handle, shallow right center field. Lofton can't get to it. Base hit. Runners first and second. DeShields is 2 for 2. I think he broke his bat on that one.
2 for 2, and if you put them in, they wouldn't reach Lofton in center field. But we see, just like we see Maddux give up a lot of ground balls to second, short, and back to the mound, we also see him give up a lot of off the end of the bat and broken bat base hits.
He's never pitched a no-hitter in his career, and he often says, I probably never will because I throw too many strikes. Here's Willie McGee, who struck out in the first inning. I know that sounds like a contradiction, but it really isn't. Here's the pitch to McGee, fouled back.
It's not really a contradiction, because the more you're around the plate, the more there's going to be a chance that somebody's going to hit one just like that. Usually the guys who pitch no-hitters are guys who either walk 3 or 4 or
just a little while, just a little bit out of the strike zone.
Just while enough to be effective.
0-1 on McGee, 2 outs. One ball, 1 strike. One and 2.
The way Maddux pitches, he could almost tell you what's coming. He could say fastball, but you don't know where, and you don't know which way it's going to move.
McGee, a 2-time National League batting champ with the Cardinals back in '85 and again in 1990. Then he went over to Oakland and San Francisco and Boston before returning to St. Louis. That is strikeout number 4 for Greg Maddux. 2 runners are stranded here in the top of the third.
Looking play of the week came off the bat of Jeff Blauser. 3rd inning, Braves leading 3-0. Blauser with his 3rd career grand slam, icing on the cake. The rest of the way was easy for the Braves. That's our Pearl Vision best looking play of the week. And here is Jeff Blauser.
What a coincidence that Jeff should be leading off this inning. 395 in the year, 5 homers now, 19 RBIs. Number 2 in the league in hitting right now. Larry Walker still over 400 at 407. 0-1 on Jeff. Eddie Perez will follow, and then Greg Maddux. No score. Cardinals have 3 hits. Braves still looking for their first hit. Breaking ball. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Haven't seen too many of those.
Doesn't throw that pitch very often. He doesn't have a bad one either.
That one he threw uphill. Back to what we said before, when he tilts back and brings it downhill.
2-1. On the outside corner, 2-2. Full count on Blauser. Cardinals here again tomorrow night. Sunday is a night game. And they'll stay over and play here Monday night. Then Montreal comes in for a couple to wrap up the homestand. And the Braves go out to L.A. to start a West Coast trip. That's all for Blauser. Third strikeout for Bennis. Both pitchers very sharp in the early going.
There was that slider, and it was a beauty. Office Depot wants you to have a look at the scoreboard. Chicago, wind must have been blowing out. They beat up on San Diego. Pittsburgh trails Florida by 1. Houston is slamming Philadelphia. San Francisco off to a good start. L.A. trails Cincinnati. Colorado, New York underway. We'll give you some American League scores after this. Right after Eddie Perez bats, we will complete our Office Depot scoreboard.
Eddie 2 for 4 in his last game to get the average up over 100. Now he's going to try to get it up to 200. He's off to a slow start at the plate this year. He's 3 for 29, 0-2 the count. Remember that last game he caught? How many foul balls hit him on the foot, on the shoulder, on the
4
arm?
on his left foot, 2 on the shoulders.
Batting practice Wednesday. He hits a line drive right back up the middle. It hits off the front of the protective screen on the pitcher's mound. Rifles right back, hits him right in the head.
Still got a little bit of a shiner, doesn't he?
0-2 the count. Almost chased it. Did not go, says Eric Gregg. 1 ball, 2 strikes. He's caught looking. That's the 4th strikeout for Bennis.
And here's the American League part of our Office Depot scoreboard. Cleveland has taken a 1-0 lead early on against Toronto. Hershiser and Clemens, good matchup there. Boston and Minnesota just underway. Detroit at Kansas City, that's just underway. Everything else coming up a little bit later, and you're up to date on our Office Depot scoreboard.
Greg Maddux 1 for 18 for the year. That one hit was a double. Pops up the first pitch. Looks like it'll stay in play for DeFelice back near the screen. Just enough room. Another easy inning for Alan Bennis. Braves go 1-2-3. He's faced the minimum over the first 3 innings. In our category tonight, home runs at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. Dale Murphy hit the most there. Hank Aaron number 2, but look who's number 6 on that list. The man who's leading off here in the top of the 4th, Don.
And he's not real happy being away from St. Louis on this road trip. He doesn't have a hit yet. Gant struck out looking his first time up. 7 out of 42 against Maddux. On the ground, right at Flowers. And the first one goes easily here in the 4th inning. Gant, Langford, and Gaetti.
Speaking of Atlanta Fulton County Stadium, I stopped by the old ballpark today. It's kind of a sad sight now. You look down in that field and overgrown with grass clumps growing up through what the infield, where the infield used to be.
Part of the roof now being removed. You can see it's half torn down.
A lot of memories over there.
A lot of good ones.
But I hate that tunnel.
First time up, Langford struck out looking. Security still over there?
No, security's given up. You can have free reign of the tunnel if you'd like. I don't know why you would want to do that, though.
1 ball, no strikes to Langford. That's hit hard to left field. Klesko's got to hurry. He's not going to get to it. Up against the boards, extra bases. And Langford continues his torrid hitting since coming back. 1 out of 2 tonight. And now 4 for 10 on the road trip.
8th double of the year. Klesko got a bad angle on this ball. He started running laterally toward left center field, and the ball was hit over his head. If he had gone back immediately, might have had a chance of catching up with it, but once he took that first step toward center, no chance.
And that'll bring up the third baseman Gary Gaetti, who is one hit away from a milestone himself. He has 1,999 hits. Braves put the shift on with Gaetti. Lemke was right behind second base. Time Aspar and Given. So, but Maddox went ahead. You can see Lemke right there at second base. He was standing directly behind the runner. Gaetti has always been a pull hitter, but as he's gotten a little older, he has opened up a little bit more. I don't know, maybe more of a pull hitter now than he was when he was younger. Braves play him to left field, pitch him away, trying to get a ground ball. Typical Maddox. There has not been an out recorded in the outfield all night to this point. Breaking ball makes it 1-1. Gaetti was 16 RBIs. 9 of them have come in 3 games because he has had 3 RBI nights. That right there shows you how much Gaetti pulls the ball. Upstairs, that'll make it 2-1. 1 out, top of the 4th inning.
But Gaetti's made a little adjustment this at bat. He's closed up just a little after seeing where Maddox was going to pitch him those first couple of pitches. He's not quite as open as he was at the start of this
Boy, you're
at-bat.
right. Look at that left foot. Let's see if Perez and Maddox pick up on that. Well, they're sliding right back outside. On the ground, that's what they wanted. There's out number 2. It must be nice to know if you put a ball in a certain spot, you pretty much know where it's going to be hit.
And a guy like Gaetti, who is a dead pull hitter, as you were saying, those pull hitters who have been pull hitters their entire career have a very, very difficult time trying to change their swing. And you can pretty much predict where a ball is going to go, just like you were saying. You pitch away, he's going to try to pull it, hit a ground ball to short. That's what he did.
That's about as easy as it gets right there. 2 gone, and here's Mabry. Last time up, he went the other way. He hit a ground ball that Chipper Jones cut off and threw him out. This is a good-looking young hitter. Mabry, only 26 years old. He was listed day to day when we got to the ballpark, but his name in the lineup card. He is
got a right knee that's been causing him some problems. Had to have it drained a couple days ago.
It's the first time he's played on this trip. He sat out 2 days. 2-0. Had an 11-game hitting streak already this year. And for the last 2 weeks, hitting about .340. And he is not going to hit against Maddox here. They're going to put him on and take their chance against the young catcher, Mike DeFelice.
Well, that's all of 5 walks this year now.
Can you believe it?
For Craig Maddox, and 2 of those have been intentional. 2 of the 5. He's only walked 3 men unintentionally this year, and he has 44 strikeouts.
I think his control shot. Runners at first and second. It'll be Langford. Good speed at second. Mabry, pretty good speed at first. And Mike DeFelice will stand in. He grounded to third his first time up. Takes a shot the other way, climbed back into the crowd, and it's 0-1. He's out of the University of Tennessee, isn't he?
Yeah, great arm. We saw a little bit of an example of that earlier in the game when he cut down Kenny Lofton. He threw out 35% of attempted base stealers. You're doing a good job. He's at about 58% right now.
6'2", about 205. Mistake, and they're going to get away with it. When you're going good, all the good pitches are outs, and if you make one mistake a game, it's an out. A hanging curveball, grounded to third, and the cards come away empty, stranding a pair in the 4th. Braves will come up, still no score.
That's a good one. We'll have the answer for you in the next half inning. And while we have a moment down, we want to wish the Atlanta Braves #1 fan, Pearl Sandow, watching from home tonight, a very happy 95th birthday.
Happy birthday, Pearl. And many more, darling. Top of the batting order, Kenny Lofton. Bennis has faced the minimum. He gave up a walk leading off the ball game, but Lofton was gunned out. Now contrast the styles of pitching. Remember we were talking about Maddox? Not a single out recorded in the outfield off Maddox. Check out Bennis.
Not a single ground ball.
Two different styles of doing it well. Lofton, Tucker, and Chipper Jones. Lofton having a little trouble, it looks like, with the harness. Getting his glove on. Might have had an international object in his glove.
Well, Jeff Porter's coming out to see if he can find what the problem is. He's acting like he might have a sliver or something in there, huh?
Well, sometimes you take the gloves off and you throw them down in the dugout. And if you peel them off, you might not turn them inside out. Just toss them in there. It'd be very easy to pick up a piece of glass or a piece of stone or maybe a splinter. And then you pull it on, grip the bat, and bingo. All you do is drive it further into the finger. See, you and I couldn't do that without our glasses on. Jeff Porter with young eyes right there checking it out. I don't know that I could see it with a magnifying glass on. That'll do it.
That man can do it all, can he?
Yes, he can. He logs more miles back and forth out onto the field for the injuries. Where's that to go? And here's Lofton. Breaking ball drops in there, 0-1. Lofton at 357. Drew a walk the first time up. 1-1. Tell you what he is doing, though. One of the things I think you like to look at, if you're a person who likes numbers and likes stats, your leadoff man, look at on-base percentage. Lofton over 400. Chipper Jones at 390. Jeff Blauser's on-base percentage, 472. 2-2.
That's why this lineup has been so productive in the 8, 1, and 2 spots. You've got guys at the bottom of the order and at the top of the order that are hitting. So when Blauser starts off an inning, more times than not, Lofton or Tucker's driving them in.
And the point you brought out earlier about this ball club, the pitching staff, how they helped himself. Blauser singles, they bunt him over. Blauser doubles, they bunt him over.
You get 38 RBIs from the 1 and 2 spots in your batting order this year.
And another walk to Lofton. Lost him after getting ahead. Bennis has walked a pair. Both times it has been Kenny Lofton. And now he'll stand at first for Michael Tucker. Last time up, remember, Lofton was gunned out at second by Mike DeFelice, and Tucker skied the center.
Got some news on the Florida Marlins. Remember, Gary Sheffield strained his thumb the other night diving for a ball here against the Braves. Sat out the game Wednesday night. Today they had to put him on the 15-day disabled list. They called up Billy McMillan from Charlotte.
They're leading Pittsburgh 2-1 in the top of the 7th.
And the San Diego Padres released a veteran guy to their bullpen today, Tim Scott, and they're calling up former Brave Pete Smith from Las Vegas to replace him.
Tim Scott's a good guy, and we certainly hate to see that happen, but we wish Pete Smith well. Good stop by DeFelice.
Wow.
That was headed for the screen. And it's 2-0.
Watch him shift his entire body. Outstanding defensive catcher. Only question on him is, will he hit enough?
Well, he's shown in the minors he can hit.
He's had good minor league batting averages. Usually in the 280s.
Lofton not going. Good fastball from Bennis. And it's 2-1. Tucker was trying to give the Braves a 2-0 lead with one swing of the bat.
He really felt bad about his final at bat Wednesday night. He struck out for the 4th time in the game when any kind of a base hit would have at least tied the ball game. And he was really disappointed in himself after the game. So all I got to do there is make contact. Hit it somewhere.
There's strike 2. Wonder if we might have had a little cross-up in signs there. He showed bunt as though either he was going to protect Lofton taking off, because when he didn't bunt, it became 2-2. That you know he's not taking there. Gaetti in at third. Not going. Got him. Slider on the fist. Michael Tucker says, did I swing or was it a strike? And I think it's going to be a call strike.
This is the 5th strikeout of the game for Alan Benes. Borderline whether it was on the inside corner, borderline whether Tucker swung or not.
But Benes controls the border, and there's out number 1. Here's Chipper Jones. He struck out swinging his first time. He was the first strikeout of the night for Alan Benes. Lofton didn't run with Tucker up there. You wonder if they were trying to keep the hole open a little bit with Chipper Jones, who has done most of his hitting from left center to right center as a left-handed hitter. Let's see what he's thinking here. There's one to left field. A long run for Gant, but he's got a bead on it. He was shaded that way. Out number 2. For Fred McGriff. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fly ball outs. McGriff, one of them, he flied to right. That fly ball that he hit, Pete, looked like you really couldn't tell where he hit it. He had the swing of a guy who had caught all of it.
Had the swing and had the sound.
But it settled into the glove of Willie McGee in right field. McGriff now hitless in 10 trips against Alan Benes. Not too many pitchers can say that. Chases a bad one there. It's 0-1.
Another good stop by DeFelice.
Putting on a clinic back there, isn't he?
Right up there with Charles Johnson this inning.
Looked like a little exchange between or among McGriff, Bonet, and DeFelice. A little smile from behind both those masks. Tony La Russa gets actively involved in the pitcher-catcher part of the game. I'm not sure if he's calling pitches or pitch outs or step off or throw over. Not going. 1-1. See if there are any signs coming out. Mike DeFelice will look in. There he goes. And the message was sent out, whatever it was. It's 1-1 to McGriff. Not going again. Towards second. So after walking Lofton, Benes gets out of it again. The Braves come away empty in the 4th, stranding a runner through 4, still no score.
I have a feeling they pitch for the same team.
Aha. Tricky question.
I have a feeling that team may be in the ballpark tonight.
Boy, that narrows it some. Line drive, fair ball. But Tucker was over there. Boy, there is your defensive positioning paying off. That's a sure double almost with any other ball club.
And Tucker played that like a routine single to straightaway right field. He was so far toward the line.
I don't know if the people can wait anymore on that Aflac tribute.
Okay, let's give you the answer. The only time siblings pitched in the same postseason game, the answer is Andy and Alan Benes. National League Championship Series, Game 4. Cardinals won that game 4-3.
Yeah, and you would normally think against each other. That was the hook in it. Here's a look at Andy Benes. Allen is showing bunt. Changed his mind, hit and run. Nice stop, McGriff. Well, Tony La Russa reaching into his bag of tricks. He gets the runner to second and almost gets a base hit for Alan Benes. 3 unassisted if you're keeping score.
Well, we've had 2 balls hit here. to start the 5th inning. Without the defensive positioning on Tucker, Clayton's is a double. Without McGriff holding the runner at first, Bennis's is a double. That would have been a run. Instead, there's one out runner at second. Good play by Fred McGriff.
At the top of the order for the perfect Delino DeShields. He's 2 for 2. And he looked like he was ready to pull the trigger on that first pitch again.
I'll bet that's why he didn't get a strike.
Yeah. Maddox will adjust
Yes,
based
he will.
on what you did the last time. A little bit outside. 2 balls and no strikes. DeShields with the 2 hits, that gives him 11 against Maddox and 44 at bats. Runner at second, 1 out. We're in the top of the 5th. Off the fist and out of play. 2-1. Pete Van Wieren, Don Sutton with you for 2 more outs. Joe Simpson, Skip Carey will take you the rest of the way. The first of 2. I'm sorry, the first of 4 against the Cardinals. They will be with us through Monday. We will have tomorrow's and Monday's game. It'll be interesting to see how the Braves pitching rotation unfolds now. On the corner, 2-2.
Yeah, for those of you who weren't with us at the outset of the game, it was reported before the game that John Smoltz was suffering from the flu. Greg Maddux moved up a day. Smoltz scheduled right now to go tomorrow, but we'll have to wait and see if he's all right to do that.
On the corner, and that'll do it. Boy, Maddox can paint. Maddox's plate, the 13 inches in the middle of it, don't even come into play.
You see they're set up by Perez, and how many times have you seen that from Greg Maddux? That glove doesn't move. The target is there, so's the ball.
Edward Perez doesn't jump around and have to move. A lot easier for Greg Bonet to get a look at that strike. So if the Cardinals are going to have to do anything, they're going to have to do it with 2 outs. And McGee on the run. I'm sorry, Clayton on the run. Maddox didn't even take a peek back. Clayton was hung out to dry out there, bouncing around.
Yeah, he jumped too soon. He knew it, and he froze. And then when Maddox paid no attention to him, then he took off. Watch him start, stop. Maddox is not looking. Off he goes. In this situation, Don, unlike the first inning when he had a runner at first to lead off the game and he was paying a lot of attention to him, yes, he has a runner in scoring position, but second or third is not going to make any difference with 2 outs. The key is 2 outs. He's got 2 outs. Not worried about the runner, worried more about the hitter here.
Off the fist, that'll leave it at 1-1. McGee twice a strikeout victim. Maddox now with 5 after getting Delino DeShields.
That's 11 stolen bases for Royce Clayton.
A little speed in this lineup. Only Mabry of the guys starting tonight does not have a stolen base. DeShields has 8. Ganton and Langford both have 5. Excuse me, swing, and it's 1-2.
Some reseeding going. That ball hit right off the edge of the screen down there. There's a family with a little guy about 4 or 5 years old down there, and he was sitting in the exposed area. They just moved him behind the screen after that foul ball.
Wise move. Here's the 1-2 to McGee. A little off the corner, 2-2.
The little fella in the Braves cap there, he was sitting down where those 2 youngsters are. Those 2 youngsters, it looks like they're behind the screen, but they're not. That little guy in the middle, he was right out in the front there.
Can't figure out why you want me to move.
I had a front row seat.
Don't mess the hair up. Here's the 2-2. Just missed. Full count, 3 balls and 2 strikes.
Well, that time Perez did have to move the glove a little bit.
A lot of movement, a little bit too much to get the call. So the payoff pitch, what do you want to bet it might be a changeup? Right at Blauser. That'll do it. So the Cards threaten here in the 5th inning, but come away empty, leave a runner stranding at 3rd. We're halfway home. Pitching's the name of the game. No score.
Joe Simpson and Skip Carey with you to take you the rest of the way. Both guys look sharp.
Boy, they sure do. A great pitching duel, and got to give Maddox a little extra credit. He didn't even know he was going to go to the post tonight.
Absolutely. Filling in for John Smoltz, who is out with the flu. And Greg working on 3 days rest, although he did only work 5 innings in his last start against Pittsburgh.
Come to think of it, Leo doesn't look like he feels too good either.
Ryan Klesko starts the 5th for the Braves and hits one in the seats foul. Struck out his first time up. Cardinals, though, have 5 hits. The Braves still looking for their first hit. Klesko, Lemke, and Blauser for the Braves against Venice this inning. The 0-1 pitch. A spot that Venice has been working over tonight, down and into the lefties. On the ground.
He hurt his thumb again.
Did he?
Something happened. Maybe he just broke the bat, but he was looking down at his wrist as if something was wrong.
He dropped something out of his hand, and you're right. I think it's the handle of his bat. 1 out for Lemke.
You see that right hand came off the bat. That's where I thought he was hurting, because he's had trouble with that wrist. I don't know if that's the case or not.
He had parts of the bat in both hands. Lemke flying to right his first time. 6 for his last 19. When you get busted as many times as Venice has been throwing down and into the lefties, some of these guys begin to try to get a head start on that pitch, and Mark started early on that one, and it was away from him, but a strike. He was ready for that one, but hit it right at the Shields. He's been busy. 2 down.
Bad news for the Pirates tonight. Their shortstop Kevin Elster left the game in the 7th inning. Apparent shoulder injury, collided with Florida's Kurt Abbott at first base. Elster right in the middle of negotiating a contract extension. I hope it's nothing serious. It would be a tough break. He's had a lot of tough breaks in his injury-scarred career.
Several key players placed on the DL today by various teams. Blauser, the hitter, he fouls one back. Struck out his first time up. The Astros placed Derek Bell on the disabled list with a bad bruise in his right calf. He'll be on the DL for 2 weeks. Gary Sheffield placed on the DL, resulting in that injury here in Turner Field. Sprained thumb. 0-2 to Blauser.
I hate to bring this up, but remember it was the Cardinals that had the Dean brothers, and first Paul pitched or how did it work?
Dizzy pitched first. He threw a one-hitter.
Yeah, and then Paul pitched a no-hitter, and Dizzy said, if I'd have known he was going to do that, I'd have pitched one too. Well, the Venice boys are both pitching in this series. One's got a no-hitter.
Still does. And he has struck out 6. Braves go in order again here in the 5th inning. We head to the 6th. No score.
But the Zeros have dominated the game. There's your Budweiser game summary.
And Ron Gant leads off the 6th inning for the Cards. 0 for 2 with a strikeout and a ground out. He's only hitting .224, but he's tops on their ball club in hitting with runners in scoring position. A .393 clip. One ball, one strike. Maddox took one off his shin in the 2nd inning, a comebacker from Gaetti, but he's still out there. 1-2 to Gant.
This Venice has probably looked better against us than any pitcher all year, wouldn't you think, Joe?
He's been awfully tough. Lost that close ball game up in St. Louis 2-1. Worked 8 innings that night. The 1-2 pitch is lifted into the upper deck down the right field line. Ron and his family still make their home here in the Atlanta suburbs. The 1-2 pitch for Maddox. Did he go? Yes, he did, said Greg Bonet. And Perez tags him out. Gant can't believe it, but Maddox has his 6th strikeout of the night. Second time he's fanned Gant.
Well, you be the umpire with our side angle. I don't think he swung.
Not that time.
No, I don't think so. Break for Atlanta. Barry Bonds, a 3-run homer. Giants now 11-2 over Montreal in the 3rd.
Astros got 7 in the 1st at Philadelphia and lead 11-0. Craig Biggio has hit 2 home runs there. Gant still in disbelief. Here's Ray Langford. He has struck out and doubled. Took a call, 3rd strike in the 2nd inning. He was upset with Greg Bonet. Hit hard but foul. Maddox left runners at 1st and 2nd in the 3rd inning. 1st and 2nd in the 4th inning. And left Clayton at 3rd base in the 5th inning. Langford needs some new lumber.
The way he's been hitting, that's good news. Let him break that lucky bat. He came into the game at 400.
Yeah, and tearing up right-handed pitching, hitting .417 against right-handers, and he's 1 for 2 tonight. Funny though, he's hit 6 home runs, and 4 of those have come against left-handed pitching. A tough out. Since he has cut down on his strikeouts, he has become that much tougher. 1-1 pitch, again inside, and again a strike. That's the pitch that he was rung up on earlier tonight. .67 pitches with 1 out in the 6th. 1-2 pitch foul off of Perez. I talked to Eddie Perez before the ballgame on a radio interview, and I was asking him about how he was beaten up in Pittsburgh in his last start with several foul balls. He said that wasn't so bad. He said the next day we came home, and he said I was hitting in the cage, and I lined one off the protective screen that protects the pitcher, and it came back and hit me right in the face. I had to go to the hospital for x-rays. 2-2.
You know what I just learned about our ballpark? People in the chop house don't involve themselves in the play. Watch when it goes around.
2-2 delivery, lined over Lemke, base hit into right field. Langford has his 2nd hit. These people in the chop house may not be aware it's even going on.
That could be. It could be too crowded.
Plus, you're under those umbrellas, you know.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to stand and throw your arms up, so.
And they need to adjust the vertical hold on one of the horizontal hold on one of their TV sets.
Runner at 1st for the Cardinals. Gary Gaetti, the hitter. Get a comebacker off of Maddox his 1st time up. Grounded to short in the 4th. He's 0 for 2. Looking for his 2,000th career hit. Maddox throws over because Langford a threat to go, although he has been caught 4 times this year. 5 stolen bases. Gaetti with a little more of an open stance against Maddox. Bounces one back off of him again. Chipper Jones gets it. Throws to 1st and not in time. Gaetti has his 2,000th hit. And it's another one off of Maddox. Strange way to get career number 2,000, but he'll take it. He wants the baseball.
Here's another look. Watch Fred here. He stretched a little. If he goes out there a little further, he might have had him.
Jeff Porter out to check on Maddox again.
That one hit off the bottom of his spikes, it looked like. Good play by Chipper. You couldn't ask for any more.
And just missed him. And on the scoreboard, they acknowledge Gaetti's 2000th hit. And there's your list of active players with at least 300 homers and 2,000 hits. Pretty select group. First and second again for the Cardinals, and now Mabry up there. Might be two. They'll have to hurry. They get one. That's it. Gaetti bearing down on Blauser after the slowly hit ball. So runners at the corners and 2 outs.
Here's another look. It just wasn't hit quite hard enough. And Mark took just a little extra time getting it out of his glove, and Blauser quite wisely. If he tries to throw that ball and Gaetti gets him, he's liable to throw it away, and then the run scores from third.
And the catcher, Mike DeFelice, will be the hitter.
Cardinals have already left 5 men, and they've done so in the last 3 innings, and they got 2 runners aboard now with 2 outs.
And with Maddox, sometimes you worry about that when you leave so many out there. But their guy has been even better. He is not allowed a hit. DeFelice takes high.
He has faced just 1 over the minimum. As Bennis.
DeFelice has grounded out to Chipper Jones twice. Fouls that one off of Perez. 1-1. Maddox last year gave the Cardinals nothing. He beat them twice, had an ERA of 0.78. I believe it was 2 years ago he threw a masterpiece at them.
Yeah.
A one-hitter,
Took
two-hitter.
about an hour and 20 minutes.
At Busch Stadium. It was terrific. Call strike 2. DeFelice a little surprised by that call. He's in the hole 1 and 2. See what Maddox does here. Perez moves outside. Pitches right there, and he got him looking, and DeFelice argues with Greg Bonet. Can't believe it. And now Bonet is going to chase him back toward the Cardinal dugout. But that'll end the inning. The Cardinals strand 2 more, including another runner in scoring position. We go to the bottom of the 6th. Still no score.
And Rene Russo as they star in Mr. Destiny on Dinner and a Movie, on which Paul and Annabelle will be preparing predestined cosmic curry. Predestined cosmic curry. That's coming up next on the Superstation, and it's predestined cosmic curry.
Not bad. Eddie Perez up for his second at bat tonight. He struck out his first time. Braves need to get something going. They have not reached Bennis for a hit. He has walked 2. Both of them were Kenny Lofton leading off the 1st and the 4th. Lofton was thrown out trying to steal. He's still getting some attention on the hand, huh?
That's a strange one there.
And it looks like Jeff Porter's trying to, like he's got a needle and trying to maybe get a splinter or something out. One and 1 the count. Fouled back. Bennis is throwing a no-hitter here.
Mike Morgan has a perfect game through 5 against the Dodgers in Cincinnati.
Boy, the Reds could use some pitching.
Oh boy. Amen.
Off to their worst start, I think, in history. 11 and 27. Bennis has spanned 6. 7. Perez chased a high fastball. Bennis's last start, another one of those tough luck decisions. He got beat by the Mets 2-0. Bobby Jones threw a gem for the Mets, but Bennis was just as good. 7 1/3 innings. He allowed only 1 earned run. walked 1, struck out 4.
And his emergence really helps the Cardinals despite their bad record. They're in a division where nobody is sprinted away. They get all these guys going, they're going to be tough.
Greg Maddux fouled out to the catcher his first time.
This is no fluke about Benisme. Only one ball has
No.
been hard. That hit hard. That was Tucker, a liner to center in the first.
0-2 to Maddux. Well, you'd have to put the Cardinal starters at least as good, if not better, than Houston's. The Astros have been scoring some runs. The Cardinals' offense has been off to a slow start out of the gate.
I guess Atlanta, L.A., and then those two, huh?
Out of play. Still 1-2 to Maddux. And then you saw earlier tonight, I know on that one graphic, all the guys they have on the disabled list.
Yeah, 9 of them.
There was a ball that I saw roll over near the Cardinal dugout earlier tonight. Brian Jordan went out to pick it up, and you know he has the bad back. Couldn't bend over to pick it up. He had to squat down to get the baseball.
So he sounds like he's a little way away, huh?
The 1-2 to Maddux. He didn't go. 2-2. There's Brian. Injured his back, picking up his son on an off day in spring training.
Yeah, went to Disney World, picked up his little boy, and back trouble the result. Hard to believe.
And hard to believe here, Maddux has worked him for a full count and hits a rope into the crowd. Look out, folks. Greg turned on one. He's still alive. 3-2. Another payoff pitch due. Pops that one up. Gaetti in foul territory. One hands it. 2 down, and Kenny Lofton will be the hitter. Maddux is fouled out to the catcher and the third baseman.
I said, honestly, he's had probably as good a swings
He
as anybody
has.
on the club.
He has, maybe because Bennis is giving him a few more fastballs, but there you see his line for his first start he made against Atlanta on May 5th and his work tonight. Lofton has his batting glove on, and he appears to be ready to hit. Called strike.
You think some critter crawled up in there and bit him when he put it on?
Hard to say. Hard to say. I don't know if it might have been something in the lining of his glove that stuck him, that's like a splinter or something. I don't know.
The itsy bitsy spider crawled up the batting glove.
Out came Bubba to dry up all the pain. 1-2 to Lofton. Down and in, but missed inside. 2-2. They play Lofton around to left, as most teams do, shading him to the outfield. He hits that one that direction, but up into the club level. Boy, the Padres have fallen on hard times, haven't they?
Boy.
They got clobbered today by the Cubs. They're now 14-24, last place in the West. Got him looking. No argument from Kenny Lofton. And that's 8 strikeouts for Alan Bennis. The Braves still looking for their first hit. And we go to the 7th, scoreless. And here's Skip.
Okay, Joe, thanks. Royce Clayton leads it off, and Maddux goes to work and deals a little bit high. 1 ball, no strikes. Clayton has 2 of those hits. He came into the night 5 out of 31 against Maddux, but he's figured him out this evening. Not this time. An easy 2-hopper. 1 away.
And it's time to check out our Olympic Stain on deck look ahead. The Cardinals in town for 3 more games. We'll have 2 of those for you, including tomorrow afternoon. John Smoltz is still scheduled to pitch tomorrow against Matt Morris. And after the 3 games with the Cardinals, the Expos come in to wrap up the homestand. We'll have both of those games for you Tuesday night and Wednesday afternoon, a business fan special.
Unfortunately, if you're a Braves fan, Alan Benes is hitting for himself. Boy, he has been sensational. Ground ball. Lemke to his left. 2 pitches. 2 out. That plays right into Maddox's hands. And Delino DeShields the batter. 2 out of 3. He'll take a little time here to give Benes a chance to get back.
Good to see Rene Latchman back in uniform, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Coaching at third for the Cardinals and the former manager of the Marlins. I think we talked about that a little bit in St. Louis, the fact that Tony's just about got his entire Oakland staff back with him.
There's a strike to DeShields. That, I think, is a real compliment to La Russa. The 0-1 pitch. Downstairs, it's 1-1.
Certainly a winning combination for them there. And has one of his former players right there next to him, Carney Lansford, who works with the infielders.
The 1-1 pitch. Out in front, it's 1-2. Say 12 months a year, Chop Talk, the best way to stay in touch with what's happening with the Braves. Call 1-800-700-CHOP. It's the official monthly magazine, the Braves. Outside of the Shields, 2-2. The 2-2 pitch, here it is. He got him, and the inning is over, and Maddox continues to weave his web. He, too, has 8 strikeouts. We go to the bottom of the 7th. We are scoreless.
Over Memorial Day weekend, Saturday at 1:05 p.m. Eastern Time, it's the CarQuest Auto Parts 300. You can hear the cars from here. And on Sunday at 5:35, it's the Coca-Cola 600 live from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. That's Memorial Day weekend. I'm really trying to stretch this out, trying to wear you out.
I noticed that.
NASCAR action here on TBS.
Michael Tucker leads off the bottom of the 7th and jumps out of the way of a slider down and in. 1 ball, no strikes. You can see what a late break that slider has when he misses with it, because guys are really leaping and spinning to get out of the way. He has been terrific. Out in front, hit it foul, 1-1.
But as I said earlier, Skip, the left-handers especially are trying to get started a little bit quicker on it, and at some time that results in giving up on a pitch away. It's hard to pick up as a slider.
Tucker calls time and steps out as Benes is working too quickly for his satisfaction. Montreal trying to come back. It's now San Francisco 11-6 in the 4th. Holy smoke.
Benes with his hands on his hips, a little upset because Tucker has stepped out, but this is nothing new for Michael Tucker with his contact lenses. We've seen him do this before.
1-1 the count. Now Benes is going to let him wait a little. Now he's ready to go. Right off his thumbs. It's 1-2. Last Cardinal to throw no hitter, Bob Forsch, against Montreal in St. Louis back in 1983. And he threw the one prior to that in 1978. That was against Philadelphia, also in St. Louis. 2-2 the count. Brian Harvey will pitch again on Sunday in Greenville as he continues rehabbing, trying to pitch his way back to the major leagues. Everything going very well right now. Right at Clayton. They had him played perfectly. Funny hot. Got him. 1 up.
They do like to play the Braves left-handers behind the mound. They give them the hole.
They even play Lofton that way, and he makes a living hitting the ball to the left side. Here's Chipper. He has struck out and flied to left. Fred McGriff on deck. 0-7-0 for the Cardinals. All zeros for Atlanta. A home run cut, but he came up empty. 0-1.
Chipper was mad at himself his last at bat against Venice. Got a good pitch to hit and fouled it into the screen.
Mike Morgan's perfect game went by the boards. A double by Eric Anthony ended that in the 6th. A weak swing. It's 0-2. And Julio Franco singled tonight. He's got a 15-game hitting streak working for Cleveland.
That was an excellent off-speed pitch from Venice. That's his 3rd best pitch.
Low and away this time. It's 1-2. It's like he's got every hitter sort of on his tiptoes. He's out of there. Caught looking on the outside edge again. That's 9 for Venice. 4 of his called.
Again, working the outside part of the plate. That's a pitch Maddox has been getting tonight. Venice gets this one tailing away. 11 is his career high in strikeouts. Back in April of '96 against Montreal.
Some confusing sports ticker psychobabble here. They say first, Los Angeles left fielder Eric Anthony doubles to right field leading off the top of the 6th inning to break up Mike Morgan's perfect game. And then they say Tom Candiotti. Oh, I see. They say Tom Candiotti starting the 6th for Los Angeles. So they're right and I'm wrong. 1-1 the count. That's now a 4-1 ball game. On that corner.
Mercy.
1-2.
I think that one was even a little bit wider than the one to Chipper. But he's hitting spots and getting the benefit of the doubt from Greg Bonet.
And so's our guy.
Yes.
He's still got his no-hitter working. Another funny hop, but nothing doing in the 7th. No-hitter through 7 for Alan Venice. We go to the 8th inning. All tied at 0.
Francisco trying to hold off Montreal. Willie McGee leads off and fouls one off. There's that Montreal score. Los Angeles is at Cincinnati. Mike Morgan still has the lead. Colorado, New York scoreless also. We'll give you the American League in just a bit.
0-1 the count to McGee. Jammed in, fouled it away.
Cleveland leads Toronto 1-0 after 3.5. That's Hershiser and Clemens hooked up there. Minnesota got 4 in the 3rd. They lead Boston. Detroit leading Kansas City. New York at Texas. No score after 2. Everything else on the West Coast.
And there's your Delta scoreboard. 0-2 the count on McGee leading off the Cardinal 8th in a scoreless game. Just missed outside. 1-2 the count. That's one thing about Maddox. He gets you 0-2. He goes right after you.
Not too much messing around.
Chopper, can McGriff make the play? Yes, Maddox has to cover. 1 out.
After a lot of trouble from the 3rd inning through the 6th, Maddox has had a couple of easy innings, the 7th and then the beginning here of the 8th. Very few pitches.
But there's danger here. Ron Gant stands in. He never had much luck against Greg. He's 7 out of 44 against him. One of those hits a home run. Embry and Clance in the Atlanta bullpen.
was like a pitch out. I'm surprised Lansford could reach it. So when they got Solano to Shields earlier tonight, it was somewhat of a pitch out too as Eddie started to move out of the second spot there. That left foot is pushing the feet. But there's 45,000 fans and they're flashing right out there on the scoreboard. It says no hits, no runs, no errors for Atlanta. So everybody here knows it. Why shouldn't we say it? Number 2, even with our ego, we don't believe that anything we say up here has anything to do with what happens down there. So don't worry about that. Now there's an obligation to let something know about it too, because that's part of the intrigue of this game. If you can't look for something we don't mention it, you're not going to be happy with us. Let the guys in the dugout worry about the secret system. That's it. The 0-2 pitch is not a big lead. Not right. Just missed outside 1-2. They had 0-2 on Gent too in Austin. When Gent broke the second on the pitch that was fouled off, he gave it away. He was really leaning over his right leg, trying to get a good jump. And we'll keep an eye on him to see if he does the same thing again. So when they're watching run through the sign. And again, Maddox pushes him back. Boy, the Red Sox can't win a game. They're losing 8-2 to Minnesota tonight. Nowhere near. Boy, that's unusual. 2-2. That was like a waste pitch. Yeah, and sometimes, I wonder if Greg, he has such a great instinct for this game. I wonder if sometimes he makes sort of a pitch like that on his own, expecting the bad place to be running. No pitch out call, so just make that pitch to that direction, hoping that he's got a head start on him. 2 balls, 2 strikes to count. No score. Alan Dennis, a no-hitter through center. Cardinals trying to break through in the roof. The 2-2 pitch. Grant does not run, and it's outside, and he'll be running now 3-2 with 1 out. And again, Maddox ahead 0-2, and he runs it through, and he lost. Grant, does that mean that he's tiring? I don't know. But it's very unlikely. He's throwing 6 and 7 pitches in the 6th inning. He's got to be closing in on 85 and 9. There he goes, great jump. Outside, Lindsey knocks it down. Picks it up, he'll still get him. Running at second, he had no play there anyway. But that ball was really shot. Yet another runner in scoring position, but now 2 are out, and Gary Gaetti, a veteran hitter, stands in there. So that's the veteran second baseman do what he has to do to make sure this ball doesn't get through him. Went down to make sure he stayed down on the ball, blocked it, kept it in front of him, got the out. And a casual fan may say, well, what's the big deal? It's just a ground ball. That thing's coming at you about 100 miles an hour. That ball is shot. And it takes a little character to get down there and risk life and limb to block that out. You don't know if it's going to come up or not. Grant running on the play would have had at least third. Oh, good. Over 100. That's the first time all year, isn't it? Yes, it is. So it does it. There's Gaetti. He's tough. Under his chin, 1 ball, no strike. Maddox has not recorded an out in the outfield this inning. And Dennis is not allowed to fly ball out. He's allowed 1 since the 2nd inning. Pop. Let's see if it stays in. Eddie Perez comes back next. And there's one with a new ballpark pitcher. Last year, I think that's an out. Well, I know one thing. Maddox got away with a pitch there. That pitch was high, and Gary Gaetti's a good high ball hitter. 1-1 the count. Take another look. Yeah, that stayed right there, didn't it? Tiger was down in a row and came up and in. And that would indicate that it is tight. John Mabry waits to hit next. But there are 2 outs, a 1 run. 2 outs on the outside side. Gaetti can't believe it. I can't either. That looked well outside. Greg's been generous tonight for both pitchers. And he's getting more generous. 2. Upstairs, 2-2, and the crowd buzzes about that, but that was high. Yeah, it was a good spot. Fine place, but it was too high. Galletti 8 for 38 coming into tonight's game with runners in scoring position, hitting .211. The 2-2 pitch. It is. Pop that'll reach the seat. And the duel continues. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Not many tricks left. These two guys, not that they've faced each other that often, but they've both been around for long. And not many surprises. Well, and Galletti knows how wide the plate is for Greg Maddux. He's aware of that. And he knows now with 2 strikes, he's got to protect that corner. He goes into that pitch. He's 3 out of 10 against Maddux in his career. He's got it all, and the only rubber. Galletti tried to stop his swing, it did not. That's 9 strikeouts for Maddux. They lead yet another runner. They're 8 for the game. They go to the bottom of the 8th. Alan Bennett still cruising with a no-hitter, but there's no score in the ballgame. But right at Ray Lankford. 1 out. We'll take a look at it now. Sorry, we missed it. For those of you riding on the no-hitter, we should have put a stop on your heartbeat because it was a bullet right at the center field. Both hard hit balls tonight off of Dennis have been hit right at Lankford. Funny how hard hit that ball was. You could see Dennis ducked to get out of the way, and it carried easily to the center field. If it gets under that a silly millimeter more, he probably hits it out of here. Like Lankford did. He hit one just about like that into the right field seats at this stadium, leading off an inning. Yep, for one of the Braves runs, and that's 2-1 win over Dennis. 0-1 the count to the limit. Downstairs, a ball and a strike. I know we talked about this over on radio. Did we mention it over here about Pete Smith? No, he's been called up tomorrow by San Diego. They're disabled somebody else, but who? Pete is pitching very well down at Las Vegas. A ball and a strike to count. For those of you who don't remember, he was one of the Braves' young guns maybe a decade ago. 2 balls and a strike. He wanted to command to him never reach the heights that many thought he would. 2-2. He's a great big guy, too. He's not going to get, you wouldn't figure him to get tired out. Last shot of the week was the walk to Lawson back in the 4th. Ground ball to third. Galletti takes it. Nice hit. Too late. That's an error. No hit. But there's a potential go-ahead runner aboard. And Tony Giacomino is going to come out and run for empty. 4th error of the year on Gary Galletti. And don't think for a minute that these Cardinals aren't aware of what's going on here. They're trying to do everything they can to not only win the game, but preserve the no-hitter so far being thrown by Dennis. Scoreboard operator should have just punched that hook to the front of it to let the Cardinals go crazy. Here's Jeff Blanchard. The go-ahead run at first and on out. Javi Lopez. The pinch hit next for the Tails, which would also indicate Maddux might be done for tonight. After 8 billion innings. We're in the bottom of the 8th, and we've just hit the 2-hour mark. It's been that kind of game. The last time the Braves who no-hit it was by Bob Force. The last time, rather by Ken Force. The last Cardinal to throw a no-hitter, Bob Force. They were brothers. The Dennis boys were brothers. A lot of irony here at the ballpark tonight. 1-0 the count. But a similar situation to what the Pirates had in the top of the inning. Got good speed now with Giacomo pinch running. Bobby Cox knows that he may only need one run with one out. And one of the top hitters in the league at the plate. Jeff has struck out on his 2 plate appearances tonight. Swinging both times. But I think if Bobby sends Giacomo, you'll see Blaser hacking the right corner, hit that ball in the hole on the right side, maybe play hit and run. And that would have put Steele. Not a winner there. I think it's 10. Swinging, missing, running in. Looks like Jeff might be over-swinging a little bit. He might be. Scott Rowland has hit a 3-run home run. The Phillies have closed to 11-7 in the 7th against Houston. Houston got 7 runs in the first inning, but now they're fighting to win the game. And the 1-1 to Blaser. Going inside, 2 balls and a strike. Lopez is on deck. It would be interesting to see what Bobby does if Blaser is. He's got Keith Lockhart down there. Less likely perhaps to hit into a double play than is Javi. Javi, of course, more likely to hit one right at it. Good pitch to hit and run on if they want to do it. It's 2-1. Dead lead to Giacomo. They throw over there. They'll sink in the same line. Blaser checks out Bobby D. So does Giacomo. And hit and run play, if that's what they put on. Giacomo said to make sure that he doesn't get pissed off. They don't want to give it away by doing a huge lead. And that mortgage lead over the right now. Again, Dennis breaks contact to the other. By the way, Maddox is cruising high, 9 strikeouts tonight. That move by Dennis is just giving Tony LaRussa a look at Giacomo to see how he reacts to that bluff. If he sees him leaning towards second, they may pitch out to him. He's going. Fouled away, and he took a shot at right field. But fouled it off, and it's 2-2. So a Jets called up by the Minnesota Twins. Guys, Joe and I both watching out for Aaron Johnson. Celebrated with a grand slam home run tonight. Well, he had a 30 big lead over him. The guys had all sorts of physical problems, injuries, diseases. A couple of years in Japan, and they're back in the big league. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Upstairs the last strikeout, but to the right-hander tonight, his best work has been, again, mostly away. Got him again, up and in. Flies with a hat trick, but he needn't feel badly. He's got a lot of company tonight. Here's Javi. Inside the up and in, and caught the catch up with that good high fastball. When we talk about his slider, which is a great pitch for him, but he's got an excellent fastball as well. Florida won tonight. They beat the Pirates 3-1. Montreal is within 2 now of San Francisco. It's 11-9. The Giants had an 11-1 lead in that game, if I'm not mistaken. Dave Duncan has to talk to his pitcher and maybe to go over the scouting report with Dennis about Javi Lopez. One of the things that's a luxury here for Bobby Cox, you think, well, why wouldn't he use his left hand pinch hitter here against Dennis? You have that luxury, you know that LaRussa's not going to try and go to a bullpen, a lefty in a bullpen. But think of it this way, if Bobby decides to try to swing Greg Maddux, who went 8 innings, 7 hits, 2 walks, 9 strikeouts, and you can't really argue with the strategy because Greg looked like he was losing it a little bit in the 8th inning. Graham, he threw more pitches than he normally does. So it's first time all year he's gone over 100 pitches. He's working on 3 days rest. But a masterful performance in his own right. He just didn't get any runs of support. And so Wohlers gets the call. Bobby rolling the dice here. Goes with his ace. His theory is, why leave him in the bottom? Maybe you score a run in the ninth and he's the winner. He's the best you got, so try to shut him down in the ninth and win it in the bottom half. There's too many people close to Alan Bennett. Keeping the distance. Yeah, nobody wants Bennett. And he's thrown 109 pitches to this point. Well, he looks like he's throwing the ball every bit as well as he did when the game began. Maddux 110 pitches, I think they said. 81 strikes, 29 balls. Mowbray leads it off against Wohlers. We go to the 9th inning. He tries to bunt his way around, but don't you tell Javi Lopez, of course, stays in the game. The catcher, Tony Giaffamino, stays in the game to play second base. As well as Wohlers entered in the game as a pitcher play. And there are people who say they don't like low-scoring games because nothing happens. So much goes on in a game like this. So many little things, so many nuances. A lot of wheels turning on both sides. What happens if the Cardinals, for example, get a runner in scoring position in this 9th inning with Tennessee up 4th? What we get we don't. Long ball to Giaffamino. He picks it up and throws him out 1 away. Could you pinch it for a guy who's got a no-hitter going? I don't know if you could. I don't think so. I don't think so. Not in a tie game. If somehow the Braves would scratch across a run without the benefit of a hit, that would be different. Mike Gay released the batter. He was twice grounded to third and 1 struck out. Wohlers picked up one of his saves against the Cardinals in a trip to St. Louis. He split those 2, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. He got the save in the line. He didn't catch up with the fastball 0-1. Braves won 2-1. The next night the Cardinals rallied and won 4-3. The Marlins haven't missed a beat losing Gary Sheffield and Devon White, so that's credit. They're playing extremely well. 1-2 here. Just beat the Pirates tonight, 3-1. Royce Clayton is on deck. Last couple of outings, Mark Wohlers seems to have regained some of his confidence. Maybe a little more aggressive, getting ahead of the hitters. He's had a dynamite breaking ball. He's caught looking, 2 down. And there's Royce Clayton. Clayton 0 for 4 against Wohlers in his career. One thing you got to say about Greg Bono tonight, he has been consistent on that outside corner to the right-handed hitters. After all night, he's been generous to both sides and one of the gems. And that's really all anybody asks. They can adjust if they know you're going to call it every time.
There were some arguments early, but they have suddenly gone away.
He just threw the ball right by him, 0-1. He's got smoke tonight.
And Clayton's been swinging the bat real well, including tonight. Mercy.
Here's a good trivia question for you. Who hurled the first no-hitter ever in professional Major League Baseball? It's really before the records are cut. A fellow named George Bradley against Hartford in 1876 for the Cardinals. That was at the Grand Avenue Grounds ballpark in St. Louis. Inning over for Wohlers. Just absolutely dominated him. 1, 2, 3, nothing doing. We go to the bottom half of the 9th inning. Remember the name Harvey Haddock? Could it be a night like that? Back after this.
Up last inning when the Braves Braves had a runner on.
The
That might change.
The longest no-hitter, 12 2/3 innings by Harvey Haddix, then of the Pirates, against the Milwaukee Braves. And he lost that game. 0-1 the count. Activity in the Atlanta bullpen. Downstairs, it's 1-1. Lockhart at 167. He's driven in 7 runs with 4 hits.
Hopefully he can be patient up there, pinch hitting in the ninth, and make Venice work a little. Doesn't look like he's lost anything, though, does it?
No, it doesn't. 1-2. And there's that outside corner again. You don't envy anybody hitting against Venice, but especially guys been sitting over there for 2 hours and 50 minutes just watching. The 1-2. He stayed alive and fought it off. There haven't even been many foul balls in this game, the way these guys have pitched.
Keith's a tough out, and he's generally speaking a very good contact hitter. Venice has been anything but easy to hit tonight, but let's see if he's tough to fan. Even the little slow roller that Lemke hit last inning put a little pressure on the defense, and Gaetti booted it.
A ball and 2 strikes. Swung and hit hard down the right side, but twisting foul. He came very close to ending it with 1 blow. Still 1-2. Broken bat, pop to Clayton. There's the first out.
Pretty gutsy pitch right there by Venice and by DeFelice, because they had gone in on Lockhart and he almost hooked one down the line. They go in a little bit further this time and snap him off.
By the way, if you joined us late, and we've told you a million times that Venice has a no-hitter going, Alan Venice. He lost his perfect game in the first inning. He walked the leadoff man. Lofton was later out stealing, but right there, it's not perfect. He also walked Lofton in the 4th, and then the air, and he was left on base in that inning, and then the air by Gaetti. Lofton hits here. There's that outside corner, 0-1. So Gaetti's air had nothing to do with losing him a shutout or a perfect game. Didn't mean to. There's an easy second out. Lofton flips the bat away in anger at himself. 2 down.
And you know that Alan Venice is thinking, thank you very much for that break. Because there are a lot of ways Kenny Lofton can generate a base hit.
So it's all up to Michael Tucker, who hit the ball hard his first time, line to center. Since has struck out, grounded to short. This Venice, man, you got to tip your hat to him. They seem to be getting a little bit better swings, but.
Well, you mentioned Maddox maybe getting a little tired. We talked about a couple of pitches that were a little high his last inning or two. That pitch was up.
You saw brother Andy Venice looking on. Boy, his stomach's got to be in knots. Fly ball, well hit into left center field. Nobody's going to get it, I don't think, all the way to the wall. There goes the no-hitter with 2 out in the 9th, and the winning run is in scoring position. How about that?
He had a real good swing at the pitch before when he fouled it off. Watch Venice and his reaction on the ball that was stroked pretty well to left center. He's hoping Langford can run it down, but I think Ray thought this ball might be out of here. In fact, Venice has already got his glove off. He might have thought it was a homer. You know what? He might have thought that ball was hit out of the ballpark. Hanging breaking ball, and he launched it. Venice is walking off the field.
And Chipper Jones gets walked as he was here on Wednesday night. Third walk for Venice, and Fred McGriff will be the man who tries to end this game. Well, the no-hitter is over after 8 2/3 innings. And you Cardinal fans watching ought to be mighty proud of this young man. He has pitched one whale of a ball game.
It's been outstanding.
We're proud of him too, and we're rooting for the other guy.
I want to show you something right after this next pitch about why he perhaps took his glove off as he was walking off toward the third base line. Not so much to go back up third because Tucker hadn't even gotten to first at that point, but maybe watching the reaction. Now watch Ray Lankford. He kind of pulls up here and watches the ball, and maybe that's what Bennis was watching. He was watching Lankford's reaction, and all Ray was really doing was seeing where he should go to play the carom.
What's in the water tonight? David Wells has a perfect game for 5 innings for the Yankees tonight.
Cardinal bench on the hit by Tucker. I think they all knew too.
They're probably praying the same thing, just that the ball stayed in the park. Well, here's McGriff. 0-7-1 for the Cardinals, 0-1-0 for the Braves. Great speed at second base. A base hit to the outfield, you figure him to score. McGriff 0 for 3, but he's got plenty of company. That's that corner, 0-1.
Similar situation a couple of nights ago when the Marlins were protecting a 1-run lead in the ninth. Braves loaded the bases up. They walked Chipper to pitch to Fred, and McGriff grounded out, but he grounded out on the first pitch. He took that one tonight.
0-1 the count. What a ball game. He's in the hole, 0-2. And now Bennis doesn't have to throw him a strike for a couple of pitches.
But obviously not quite as sharp as he was early on.
He's got to be over 120 pitches now.
Good call.
21. That's a lot of pitches, but
does he have the confidence here, 0-2, to throw that slider down and in that he had before?
my guess would be yes, but let's find out.
He jammed Lockhart earlier in the inning with a fastball.
He wants Dave Felice to start over. There hadn't been any runners at second and base all night, so he may have forgotten what those signs were just momentarily.
Fred's got to think about guarding the plate, checking the outside corner. He may be set up for something inside.
Struck him out, boy. Tip your hat to that guy. What a comeback after going 8 2/3 in no-hit fashion, giving up a hit and then striking out a tough hitter to get out of the Mets. That is his 11th strikeout of the night. 1 hit, no runs, no errors, 2 left. Free baseball in Atlanta. No score after 9. Whale of a ball game, but he's not going to be rewarded with a victory for him. Mark Sweeney is going to come out and pinch hit for him here as we go to the 10th inning. But I'll tell you this about Alan Bennis. He made the Braves look about as futile as any team I can remember in the last several years, and you got to tip your hat to a wonderful pitching performance, Joe.
Outstanding. And very typical, I think, of his entire year so far. He came in with a 3-4 record despite a very good ERA. Mike Bielecki on to work for Atlanta. He's been in more games than any other Braves pitcher. This is his 21st appearance, and he's 1-3. 9 innings, 1 hit, no runs, 3 walks, 11 strikeouts, matches his career high in strikeouts for Bennis. And we give you his line because he's out of the game. He's giving way to pinch hitter Mark Sweeney. DeFelice also deserves a pat on the back. He did a great job, and earlier tonight made a couple of nice stops on balls in the dirt with runners on.
I think I heard him say Mark Pekazik is throwing in the Cardinal bullpen. We cannot see it. We'll check it out.
Sweeney hitting 154 on the year. Fouls one off. 2 for 9 as a pinch hitter. Extra inning games. The Braves are 3-0. Cardinals are 0-2. Called strike 2.
I think it was 124 pitches. I couldn't hear it exactly. 47 balls, the rest strikes.
It was
Bennis.
as good as you want to see. Sweeney stays alive. So he and Maddox go 17 innings, give up 18 hits and no runs. 8 hits, excuse me. 8 hits, no runs. Maddox walked 2. Bennis walked 3. And combined for 20 strikeouts between them. One and 2 to Sweeney. Again foul. Mike Bielecki's coming off a tough outing. That was 2 nights ago against the Marlins. Came in relief of Denny Nagel. An inning and 2/3, 3 hits and 2 walks, and gave up a couple of runs.
Bird and Embry in the Atlanta bullpen, we are told.
Got him. Chased a high fastball. Bielecki records his first strikeout. Back to the top of the order.
That's 12 strikeouts for Atlanta pitchers tonight. 1 for Bielecki, 2 for Wohlers, 9 for Maddox. Just overpowered him up top.
Delano DeShields started the night 2 for 2 against Greg Maddux. 2 singles. Then struck out his last 2 times up. A .250 career hitter against Bielecki. 3 for 12. Falls behind 0-1. We're scoreless in the 10th. One and 1 the count. He's going to bunt, drops down a beauty. Graffanino will have to barehand it, and got him. What a play. Fast runner, had to make a quick flip throw to McGriff, and Fred was halfway defending himself over there.
Yes, he was. That's a do-or-die job for Graffanino. Boy, this is an outstanding play. A great bunt by DeShields. You can't ask for much better. Maybe harder than he would have liked, and Fred had to. That was slowed down a little bit. That ball got to him in a big hurry.
And as a first baseman, you know you want to get the out and kind of reach out and get it quickly, but when it's coming from that short a distance, you got to be ready for anything. Willie McGee fouls one off. He's 0 for 4 tonight. A .278 career hitter against Bielecki. 10 for 36. Good idea by DeShields, but foiled by Tony Graffanino. The 0-1 to McGee. A little low. Nope. Called a strike. 0-2. Couldn't get him to chase that high fastball.
Remember what happened the last time Mike Bielecki and Ron Gant got together?
Yes, I do. He is on deck. In the dirt. 2-2. That was the decisive blow in a 2-run 8th inning rally the Cardinals had to win that second game of the series in St. Louis, 4-3. The 2-2 pitch. Fastball bounced off the plate. Graffanino makes that one too. Bielecki has a 1-2-3 inning. Bottom half of the 10th inning. Klesko, Graffanino, and Blauser due up. Still scoreless. In those 13 appearances, and has been used as a starter quite often by the Cardinals in his career with them. League hitting .234 against him. He's given up a couple of homers in 28 innings.
I don't guess you can have a tougher no decision than that one for Alan Bennis, can you? What else do you have to do?
How about Pitkazik coming on now?
A little pressure on him, huh?
Tough act to
So,
follow.
yeah, top that.
A great crowd treated to a great ball game. Wonderful pitchers duel. Ryan Klesko 0 for 3 tonight. He lined out hard off of Bennis. His last time up hit a bullet right at Ray Lankford in center. Takes low for ball 1. He's 1 for 5 lifetime against Pitkazik. That's foul. 46,626 here at the ballpark tonight. Beautiful night for baseball, too. The 1-1 pitch back through the middle, but right into the glove of Petkazik, who throws him out. 1 out for Tony Graffanino, who pinch ran for Lemke in the 8th. Stayed in defensively and made a couple of nice plays there in the top of the 10th. Graffanino hitting .240 on the year. He's 6 for 25. All 6 of his hits have been singles. 0-1.
He is yet to hit a major league homer.
Can't think of a better time.
Well, me either.
Drives that one to left. Gant got a slow start. Dives. Can't come up with it. But he did trap the ball. And now he's got to try and hold Graffanino to a single. And he does. Good play by Ron Gant. And fortunate that that ball did not bounce past him.
Because if it does, the way Graffanino runs, he's at least at third base.
Breaking ball, too.
Ron extends. Well, that's a tough play, and he caught it right in the heel of the glove. That ball came within a half inch of skipping over that glove into the wall.
And Jeff Blauser will try to snap out of his strikeout skid. He's fanned 3 times tonight. 1 for 4 career-wise against Petkazik. There goes Graffanino. The pitch lined into left field. Base hit. Graffanino's going to try for third. He'll make it without a throw. Runners at the corners and 1 out. First time tonight the Braves have had a runner to third base. Excellent hit and run.
Here's another look. Pretty good pitch. Jeff went down and got it. He's so much more aggressive as a hitter this year. Now you've got a guy who grounds into a lot of double plays, but a guy who's so far done very well against Petkazik.
2 for 3. Hopefully he can get something that he can lift. That's going to be the key here, but I wonder if Tony La Russa is going to pitch to him. La Russa was looking at the scorecard, looking to see who Bobby Cox had left on his bench. And Mike Mordecai has come out into the on-deck circle. And obviously Tony La Russa is going to make somebody else beat him tonight. It's not going to be Javi Lopez. It sets up a force at any base. Still keeps the double play in order. But obviously the only run that matters, the only runner that matters is the guy at third. We got a glimpse of Andruw Jones down in the dugout. He's got a helmet on. Mike Mordecai is a good fastball hitter.
And all he's thinking now is fly ball. Like you said, you got to try to get the ball in the air. That's easy to say, not so easy to do.
Right, and the ball that Graffanino hit was a pretty good breaking ball that Petkazik threw that didn't break as much as he wanted it to, but Graffanino went down and got it. And that's his bread and butter pitch, and that's what he needs here. He needs the ball hit on the ground, much as Klesko did to start the inning.
Looks like the infield is going to come in.
Yeah, they've got to. They've got to, and they're going to come to the plate and try to turn a home to first double play if possible, but at the very least cut off the lead runner. That would be the game winner.
Makes it tough to squeeze. What do you think?
Not necessarily. If you bunt it and just bunt it fair. No squeeze on, and that's foul.
And
even though
grounded foul.
And even though they're playing in with the squeeze on, if you don't, unless you bunt it hard right back at the pitcher, it's still a tough play for them to come to the plate and get the force.
If that runner gets a decent jump, and Graffanino probably would.
And the reason is Gaetti's got to stay back there with him to make sure that he doesn't get a big lead. La Russa wants time. Ian Duncan wants some instruction out to DeFelice. They've gotten ahead in the count. And they've got the luxury to pitch out if they want to. Mordecai is a good bunter if asked to. Not coming. Just missed. 1-1. From Cox to Dews to Mordecai. And then Dews goes over to say something to Graffinino. Bases loaded. 1-2.
Not going to squeeze now.
A little more pained expression on Bobby Cox's face too on the 1-2 count now. But a good pitch by Petkazik. Now Mordecai has the pressure shift more to him. Having to guard the plate. The outfield also drawn in. They've got to try and come to the plate on any shallow ball hit to the outfield. Because naturally anything hit over their head's going to score the run anyway. Sacrifice fly. A ball and 2 strikes. Bases loaded. Scoreless. Bottom of the 10th. Struck him out. Petkazik made the pitches he needed to make. Mordecai couldn't put it in play. 2 down, and now it's up to Lofton.
He chased a bad pitch, it looked like, but with 2 strikes, you can't be too selective. A splitter and a good one.
What a pitch.
They're going to make a move as Lofton comes on to hit. And if you're wondering why not Andrew Jones in that spot, funny how it works out. They figure Mordecai better contact hitter,
Right.
and that's all they wanted.
That's
but he
what-
didn't make contact.
What you would normally figure, but it didn't work that time because Petkazik crossed things up.
We think it's Tony Fosses coming in.
And the Cardinals are going to make their move. And as they make their move, we'll be right back. Scored a run. The Braves have the best opportunity of the night for either side, really, with the bases loaded and 1 out. But Mark Petkazik struck out Mike Mordecai, and now it's turned over to Tony Fosses. He is a specialist in getting left-handed hitters out. His 17th game. Look at that ERA. He'll be facing Kenny Lofton, who faced him a little bit in the American League. 2 for 4 against him, had some success. And what Fosses likes to do is get ahead and then throw nothing but breaking balls. He'll drop down, throw sidearm. Kenny has had a lot of success, though, in this situation. He's hitting .500 on the year with 2 outs and runners on, and 8 of his 16 RBIs this year have come with 2 outs.
Gaetti has to play in close, fearful of the bunt. Will he try to shoot one over there?
A lot of room with Clayton playing up the middle. Lefties this year probably a higher average in the past against Fosses. They're hitting .235 against him. Kenny crowds the plate. Bases loaded, 2 down. There's the sidearm breaking ball, but he doesn't get ahead. And remember, he has no place to put him.
Javi Lopez has to get a bigger lead than he's getting, Joe. He doesn't run that well. Ground ball into the hole. They'd go to second. He's got to be able to beat the ramp.
Yeah, he's real close down at first. 2-0.
Do you turn him loose now or make him throw a strike?
You bet. With this guy, I do. Because he's so tough on left-handers normally, I would let him hack away. Walks have been a problem for him. 7 in 9 innings. And he found the mark. 2-1. Kenny was taking all the way. He's got to be looking middle of the plate away again. That's where DeFelice goes. Low, 3-1. tremendous ball game, scoreless through 9.5 innings. Put it in on a bases-loaded walk.
Sure could.
We're about to find out. Lofton's going to make him think about it. Three and one. 3-2. Kenny was taking all the way.
He was hopeful it was low, but he didn't get the call. It's another guy who's been under pressure tonight. Greg Bonet, the home plate umpire, with a no-hitter and all the good pitching. And when there's good pitching, everything's a tough decision because everything's just on or just off the corner.
And I think I'd have had to call that pitch a strike, too. It's too good a ball game for it to end that well and that close a pitch. So now Lofton has to widen his strike zone a little bit. Payoff pitch, runner goes. Down the line, Gant on the run, but into the seats. Out of play. We'll try it again. You were talking about Javi and Blauser getting better leads. Javi especially. Well, this is a huge advantage here because any ground ball, Cardinal infielders are forced to go to first.
And that's tough with Lofton tearing down the line.
They'll be running again. Game on the line. Here it is. Into left field. Gant was playing shallow. Backpedals, but there to make the catch. Fossis and the Cardinals get out of it. Braves leave the bases loaded. We go to the 11th. No score.
Sunday morning on the Superstation. Winner of
Chicago all over San Diego. Bombed them with 8 runs in the 3rd inning. Florida beat Pittsburgh 3-1. Alex Fernandez, his 5th win. Houston got 7 in the 1st. They're making that hold up so far at Philadelphia. San Francisco still leading Montreal in the 5th inning. They got 5 in the 1st and 6 in the 3rd. Cincinnati behind Mike Morgan leading in the 6th over the Dodgers. Still scoreless at New York. And that is Kevin Ritz, who's given way to several relievers for the Colorado Rockies. Greg McMichael in there for the Mets. Over in the American League, Toronto leading Cleveland. Minnesota shutting out Boston. Detroit and Kansas City now tied at 2 as they go to the 9th. Texas got 2 in the 6th to take over a lead over New York. And no other scores to report to you. Everything else is just getting underway on the West Coast.
And Paul Byrd in to pitch for Atlanta. He will face the heart of the Cardinal order, Gant, Langford, and Gaetti. We understand David Wells' no-hitter was broken up in the middle innings of that game, his perfect game, and his no-hitter. If you joined us late, you really missed something. Alan Bennis, absolutely brilliant. 8 2/3 innings of no-hit baseball until Michael Tucker doubled into left center. The hit was a clean one. Nobody could catch it. No decision or argument or anything, but what a magnificent job. Gant 0 for 3 in his career against Paul Byrd, the former Met performer. You would figure a Byrd would pitch well against the Cardinals, would you not?
Stands to reason.
Not after that pitch. 1 ball, no strike. Ron Gant tonight is 0 for 3 with a walk. Ray Langford is next. 1-1 is now the count. Looking ahead to the Atlanta half of the inning, Tucker, Jones, McGriff. Tony Fossis will probably hang around. Low and outside, 2 balls and a strike. Early in the year, control a problem for Paul, though not lately.
How about the job Fossis did, falling behind 3-1?
Yeah, there have been some major league pitching performances in this game tonight by everybody. Except Pekajic had a little trouble. But Fossis bailed him out. High fastball, he didn't get it. Ron up upset with himself. 2-2.
Not much doubt what Ron Gant's trying to do, is there?
No. His muscles have muscles.
He holds his bat out in front of him a little bit these days, almost like he's just trying to stay loose, and then moves him back to the position you normally see Ron hold it.
The 2-2. Full count. 3 balls, 2 strikes. Don't want to get him on. He can run. Many of the 46,000 plus have headed for home, but many more have stayed and watched an epic pitching duel here tonight. This the first of a 4-game series. High pop on the infield. That's up a mile. Tony Graffinino puts it away. 1 down. He didn't miss that by much. Here's Langford, 2 out of 4 again. He came in hitting 400. He's now at 405. A little tough to gain ground when you're clipping along at 400. Langford with 6 home runs. He's just 0 for 1 against Bird in his career.
Since he came off the disabled list, though, he's been their best hitter. Needless to say, as his average would tell you, but most consistent.
70 at bats, 6 home runs, 18 RBIs. That's pretty good. There's that outside corner again, 0-1. Gary Gaetti waits to hit next. Pop foul back and out of play into the upper deck. The fans battle for a souvenir. 0-2 the count. They're in the 7th now. The Giants lead Montreal 13-12. Giants once led, I think it was 11-1.
Yeah.
There's a solid hit to right, and there's a potential go-ahead run aboard, and he can fly. He's not a great base stealer, 5 out of 9, but he's got exceptional speed. Here's Gaetti. He is 1 for 4 tonight.
This is one of those situations you were talking about earlier with the Braves, Skip, when they had Graffinino at first with Javi up there. You don't have to get Langford into scoring position. He could score on a double easily by Gaetti, the way he can run.
Fred McGriff has to hold him on, of course. Braves play Gaetti straight away, throw to first, runner back. Ooh. Don't show me that. Against Bird, Gaetti has batted 2 times and hit 2 home runs. There he goes. Swung and missed. There's a throw. It's high. He's in there easily. A good attempt by Graffinino to slap backward with the tag, but he couldn't get him. And so the runner is in scoring position. It was a strike to Gaetti.
He got a good jump, had a good lead to begin with, and I think Gaetti might have just been swinging to protect him. Tony La Russa is sending him on the first pitch.
The Braves have on their bench Rafael Belliard and Andrew Jones. Everybody else has participated. Bird takes a little walk. All Gaetti's home runs have been against right-handers. He's hitting much better against right-handers than left. But he looks feeble there, and he's in the hole 0-2.
But he can do that. You know,
And then
like,
the next pitch.
Yeah, like some of those old grizzled veterans that set you up a little bit sometimes. They look bad on one pitch, and then the next time you think you can strike them out with it, they hit a rope somewhere.
Go ahead run at second. Pop foul back and out of play into the upper deck.
That was a good pitch.
But Gaetti fought it off.
He didn't double up on that breaking ball. He came up and in on him with a fastball, and Gaetti somehow got a piece of it.
0-8-1 for St. Louis. 0-3-0 for Atlanta. Embry in the Atlanta bullpen. They have on their bench a switch hitter, Micah Franklin, veteran Mike Gallego, another veteran Danny Schaefer, and Mike Gouline, all from the right side, and Tom Lampkin from the left. So we'll see what happens. But first, they have to try to dispose of Gary Gaetti. Did he go? No. Eric Gregg lets everybody know. 1 and 2.
Yeah, at first I thought he was going to ring him up, but just a quick demonstrative call, and I think a good one. He was mostly just trying to get out of the way of that pitch. Ideally, I think the Braves would like to get Gaetti, pitch around Mabry perhaps, or bring the left-hander into pitch to him, and then see what Tony La Russa does with DeFelice.
Pop foul back and out of play again. Again into the upper deck. No, that's into the upper club level.
Gaetti had an opportunity for an RBI in the 8th inning with that runner out there. It was Gant. He struck out. That was against Maddox. And it was on a check swing on a ball down in the dirt.
Langford leads from second. There's 1 out. Outside, 2 balls, 2 strikes. In the Atlanta half of the inning, as we mentioned, Tucker, Jones, McGriff, the first 3. The 2-2 pitch. Didn't mean to. Check swing, tough play, Chipper can't make it. And Langford alertly gets to third. It'll be, I'm sure, an infield hit. He thought his only chance, and I think he's right, was to barehand that ball. You do or you don't, and he didn't. So now the Cardinals have their chance.
Fooled completely on it, and he still gets a base hit. I think Chipper would have had a play had he been able to field it cleanly, but a heads-up piece of base running over there by Langford. Once he saw Chipper commit to the ball, he broke to third and made it without any trouble at all.
A very bad break for Embry, who made a good pitch, but has nothing, or rather for Bird, made a good pitch, has nothing to show for it except a trip to the locker room. And Alan Embry is going to come on here and face, in all likelihood, John Mabry. So Bird is gone, and Embry's on the way, and we'll be back after this. 79, so it will be the reserve Cardinal catcher who will come out to hit. Be alive for the squeeze. Runners at first and third, 1 out. Tony La Russa is a gambling type. He's always been more of a National League type manager, really, than American League, in my opinion.
And that was even over in Oakland when he had the likes of Canseco and McGuire and Carney Lansford and others in a lineup that hit a lot of home runs. These two guys have never faced each other. I'm talking about Embry and Schaefer, so it might be a good time for that.
Embry completes his warm-up tosses. Nomar Garciaparra, the kid from Georgia Tech, has a home run, but the Red Sox are losing again. 11-4 to Minnesota.
Tough to get much closer than that.
Oh, what a ball game. It's really been fun. Schaefer stands in there.
Rene Latchman with some long signs, too.
167 is Schaefer's average. The squeeze is a possibility. It's tough to pitch out for Embry. At times has control problems, so we'll see what happens here. Ground ball gets you double play, or should. He was hacking on that one. 1 ball, no strike. Boy, if you fall behind, it makes the squeeze even more possible, doesn't it, Joe?
And watch Rene Latchman, too. When he goes through the signs, once he gives them to Schaefer, he'll go over to Ray Langford and whisper in his ear if it's on or not.
There's a strike. It's 1-1. Schaefer didn't like that call. A ball and a strike. The outfield shallowed up just a little bit with Schaefer hitting. The go-ahead run at third. We're in the 11th. Dennis Eckersley is now in the Cardinal bullpen. The Braves bullpen is busy as well. He's ahead in the count, 1-2, and another one goes into the club level.
I was kind of like you, Skip. I really thought they might go for it. Go for the squeeze with this guy up there. Pretty good bunter, handles the bat well. But obviously they only need a fly ball to get a run home. Want to avoid the double play.
The 1-2. Did he go? Yes, he did. He chased a bad ball. So Schaefer failed. DeFelice is the scheduled hitter. He's going to be called back.
High fastball got him to chase some high cheese, and he couldn't connect. Embry gets a huge out.
See who the next hitter is going to be. I think it's Micah Franklin.
I believe it is too.
The youngster they just called up. Franklin, a big guy, 6 feet tall, 205 pounds. He's hitting .429 since coming up. Purchased from Louisville on Tuesday. And had his first 3 hits and a major league homer on Wednesday. A 7-year minor league player with the Mets, Reds, Pirates, Tigers, and now Cardinals. Was hitting .242 at Louisville with 8 home runs.
Well, he's already made a good impression. He can really endear himself to his teammates with a 2-out hit here in the 11th inning.
Embry ready to go to work. Out of play, 0-1.
They went up there hacking too. I've always felt like a pitcher always has the advantage the first time he faces a batter. But Franklin wanted to go up there and jump on that first fastball.
He's out of San Francisco, is Franklin. Oh, 0-2 off the glove of Javi Lopez.
Embry staying with the fastball too, and it's been a good one tonight. Has an opportunity now to throw something that's not a strike and hope the rookie Franklin, although he may be a major league rookie, he's been playing a long time, but hope that he'll chase a bad pitch here. Oh boy.
Shot one into the seats down the right side. Still 0-2.
Might have been a little bit too good of an 0-2 pitch.
Embry again ready. He held up 1-2. Embry tried to get him to do what Danny Schaefer did, but nothing doing.
Think Leo's been rocking much tonight?
Oh man, he's going to be seasick. The 1-2. Got him. Getting over. Franklin caught looking. Boy, tip your hat to Alan Embry. What a job he did. Came in and struck out the only 2 men he faced. 2 hits. No runs, no errors, 2 left. Bottom of the 11th. Enough's enough. No score.
Looking for Paul and Annabelle and dinner and a movie? Well, we'll have it for you as soon as this game is over. We've had a beauty. Glad you're with us because it's scoreless going to the bottom of the 11th. After the game, it's James Belushi and Rene Russo starring in Mr. Destiny on Dinner and a Movie, so stay with us. That's coming up next.
Couple of changes here. Tony Fossa stays in the game. Mike Gallego is in to play third base. Gary Gaetti moves over to first, and Danny Schaefer will do the catching. So make those changes if you're keeping score with us, and Michael Tucker will lead it off against Tony Fossa. Tucker was the guy that broke up the no-hitter with 2 out in the 9th. Here it is.
Got a breaking ball that stayed up a little bit from Bennis, and a lot of the Cardinals thought it was going out of the ballpark and almost did.
I think they forgot they were wearing a new park this year. Inside, 1 ball, no strikes. Tucker has a double. Graffinino and Blauser have singles. That's the Atlanta attack. Two and 0 the count. There's a strike. 2 and 1. At the knees. Three balls and a strike. This is exactly the pitching pattern we had on the last hitter.
It is, and everything is away. First pitch to Tucker was inside, but that was just to set up everything else.
Line drive, base hit. There's a start. A solid single for Tucker against the lefty. Here's Chipper Jones.
We've seen Michael Tucker many times before hang in there against the left-handers. That was no different. Got the pitch count in his favor and raked this pitch into right field. And it went out around it and pulled it to the right side.
Normally, in this spot, your hitter sacrifices. But with 2 left-hand hitters coming up next, let's see how Bobby Cox plays it.
Cardinals have left 6 men in scoring position, Skip, 3 of them at third base. The Braves have had 3 men in scoring position. Only 1 made it as far as third.
Foss is not on the rubber. Bluffs to first. Bad news from Pittsburgh. Kevin Elster, a broken left wrist. He's out from 6 to 8 weeks. He collided with Kurt Abbott.
What a shame.
Bunts, but pops it up. 0-1.
Chipper's not asked to do this very much and showed a little of his rustiness there.
Against Tony Fossis, let's see how he's doing. 3 out of 7. That's encouraging.
Bobby hates to have these guys bunt. He may take it off right here.
Especially with McGriff, 4 out of 21 against this guy. He's bunting and he fouls it off again. 0-2 the count.
You got to get the bat out in front to.
He's got the bat dipped a little bit.
Watch where this bat is. He gets it way back in against him, dips the head of the bat down, and anytime you do that, it's prone to a pop-up or a miss completely. Ball ran in on him a little bit, but when he dropped the head of the bat down, made it doubly difficult.
And triply difficult when you think he never is asked, virtually never asked to sacrifice. I would be shocked if they had him bunting here.
They might just waste a pitch to find out. They might just throw one up there so far off the plate it doesn't matter to see what he's going to do.
Strike 3 called, outside corner. So an awful at bat for Chipper Jones. He could accomplish nothing.
They went to the outside part of the plate, off the plate. Same pitch Bonet has called a strike all night. And you're right, that is not one Chipper will want to remember.
McGriff, a 190 hitter in his career against Fossis. Maybe this is that other time. Andrew Jones is on deck. No, it's not. A high pop in the short left field. Ron Gant calls for it. He's got it. 2 down. So Andrew is the Braves' last hope in the 11th.
And they've got a right-hander in their bullpen ready. T.J. Matthews is warming up in the Cardinal bullpen, and Dave Duncan's on his way to the mound, but he's waiting to make sure Andrew Jones has been announced. He has.
And so Matthews will get the call from their bullpen. It's all up to Chipper Jones, or rather to Andrew Jones, with a runner at first and 2 out here. in the 11th inning, and we'll be back. Hang on to that Curry dinner and a movie, folks. We'll be back after this. Tom Glavine. I don't believe that John Smoltz is even here at the park tonight because of his flu.
If he is, I didn't see him.
I didn't either.
Matthews has pitched well for the Cardinals, but took a loss on a blown save on Tuesday at Philadelphia. Gave up a 2-run triple to Scott Rowland in the 8th inning.
They have Painter, Frascatore, and Eckersley left in their bullpen as Matthews comes on.
And after Andrew hits, the Braves will be down to Rafael Belliard, I believe, on their bench is all they'll have left.
Matthews completes his warm-up tosses. Well, it's been over 10 years, maybe with one swing, Rafi. Hopefully we won't have to find out. Great speed at first base, but now 2 are out. It takes an in-betweener, and the Cardinal outfield will be playing very deep to try to prevent that. Matthews ready to go to work. He's out of Belleville, Illinois, which is a St. Louis suburb and out of the University of Nevada, Las Vegas.
The one thing they want to do is keep the ball away from Andrew Jones here. Matthews has a good breaking ball. Sorry, Skip.
No, that's okay. Remember Nelson Matthews used to play with the Cubs and A's? That's his father.
How about that? Didn't know that.
Runner at first, 2 down. Will Tucker try to swipe one? He seldom does. He's 2 out of 4. Must have been high. Looked like a pretty good pitch. 1 ball, no strikes.
I would guess that if Andrew falls behind in the count, they might send him just as a what have you got to lose type situation in case he's thrown out at second. Andrew could lead off the next inning.
The 1-0 right off his thumbs to the screen. He had a home run cut, but a jam job victimized him. It's a ball and a strike. 0-9-1 for St. Louis. 0-4-0 for Atlanta. Tucker edges away. The 1-1 to the young Atlanta outfielder. He hung a curveball high, and
That's
I'd
not.
like to see him get one of those a little lower.
Yeah, that's not where they wanted that breaking ball.
He dropped down, came sidearm a little bit, and hung it.
And Matthews talking to himself a little bit after that pitch.
Pop foul back and out of play. Again, he came down, cross-righted him a little bit. 2-2. I used to talk to myself too, but I didn't find the conversations very fascinating, so I quit.
Yeah, I'm sure the back and forth between you and your friend were not very good.
Strange stuff. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Runner at first, 2 out.
At least you got an answer, didn't you?
Yeah, but I'll say it again, strange. 2 balls, 2 strikes. No score, bottom of the 11th.
He had a good swing of that fastball. Let's see if they go back with the breaking ball.
And he fouls another one up.
Stayed with the fastball there, but he put it in a better spot.
2 balls, 2 strikes.
Be a good pitch for Tucker to run on if they're so inclined.
He edges away, and Matthews breaks contact, then bluffs. That's a move that's gained popularity in the last few years.
just to see the reaction of the base runner.
It's exactly 11 o'clock. The pitch. Foul back again. Still 2-2. Pretty good duel here.
They're playing with fire when they pitch Andruw Jones middle of the plate in, because he is so quick inside.
That may be what Schaefer's talking about as he trots out to the mound, Joe.
And he's been around the horn more than once. He knows how to set hitters up and knows, after him fouling off so many pitches, what they might like to go to with Matthews. Andruw has been prone to chasing pitches upstairs at times when he's been behind in the count. Let's see if they try to go up out of the zone up high.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Whoops, he's still not ready. Now, how can you not be ready after you just had a meeting? Throw to first. Andruw checks out his third base coach, Bobby Dews. It's now 11:01. There he goes. Grounded foul the other way. Over by the Cardinal dugout. They put some screens up to protect the players in the dugout. And they're thinking about putting screens up for the fans who are real close to the field here.
I don't think that's such a bad idea at all, running them over past the on-deck circles in both directions.
Yeah, some of the fans apparently don't like it, I've been told, but then they don't have to pay the insurance premiums. 2 balls, 2 strikes. And you are awfully close in this ballpark. 2-2 pitch. There he goes. Just missed outside. 3-2. I thought he'd ring him up on that pitch, but that's not the case.
So did Danny Schaefer. I think that's why Schaefer didn't come up out of his crouch to even attempt to throw. He thought he could frame it, but had to pull it back a little bit too far.
Stolen base for Tucker. Now just a little bloop somewhere and the game's over.
Talk about pressure on the defense. Even if the infielders mishandle a ground ball, there's a chance for a run.
The 3-2 pitch with 2 out. High fly ball left center field, but it's not going to carry. Gant is there waiting. And the inning is over, but not the game. 1 hit. No runs, no errors, 1 left. We meander on into the 12th inning. No score in the ballgame.
Clayton just missed hitting a home run about 400 feet away. What a start to the 12th inning for the St. Louis Cardinals. Clayton's 3rd hit of the night. Jumped on a high fastball and almost hit it out of here. He thought it was out. He was in his trot. And about halfway up the fence. And a pinch hitter for the Cardinals. For the pitcher. It's going to be Mike Goulin. He was just called up from Louisville. He was hitting .222 at AAA. 26 years old, 6'1", 195. That's what he's done since he was recalled. He's bunting. He's already squared around. McGriff charges. Pitches low for ball 1. Rene Latchman getting some signs from Tony La Russa. And he wants to make sure that Goulin knows exactly what they want done. Goulin is 6'1", 195 out of Steubenville, Ohio. Went to Kent State. He's bunting again. Takes high. 2-0. Embry staying with the fastball. That's a tough pitch to bunt when you're throwing as hard as he does, but can't get it over just yet. Doolin's got some power. Last year at Louisville, 17 homers and 55 RBIs. But also 119 strikeouts. 2-0. Taken high again, and Embry can't throw a strike with Goulin trying to bunt a runner over. 3-0. Delino DeShields is on deck. And he's a left-handed hitter, so that would play into the hand of Alan Embry if he can get the ball over the plate. Goulin may be taking here. We'll wait and see. He squares around, but he doesn't need to take. It's ball 4. So he was trying to give the Braves an out, and Embry couldn't take it. His first walk, runners at first and second. And now let's see what Delino DeShields is doing with runners at first and second and nobody out. Willie McGee, a switch hitter, bats behind DeShields, who has a quick visit with Rene Latchman himself. He's an excellent bunter.
Drives you nuts, this game, but and here's a guy comes in, he's a hero, strikes out 2 in a row. Now suddenly can't throw a strike.
Shields moves up on top of the plate a little bit. He is bunting, and there's a strike on 1.
No wheel play for Atlanta either.
Playing it straight up. McGriff was charging hard at first. Embry, the pitcher, would have to cover anything hit bunted down the third base line, and that's where DeShields wants to bunt it. Clayton at second, Goulin at first. Called strike 2.
What's he doing up there?
I'm not sure. Let's take a look at the pitch.
It's right there. It looked like an easy pitch to bunt, in fact.
He gave up on the breaking balls. What happened? He didn't expect it. Embry quickly fights back to get ahead 0-2. He's bunting again. Bunts it fair. Embry will have to go to first, but bobbles it. Now throws late. Bases loaded.
He may have hit it twice, and that's what Javi and Bobby Cox are saying here.
So was Alan Embry. And now in comes Bob Davidson from third. And Bob Davidson is going to call a foul ball. Delino DeShields is out, and the runners will have to return to first and second. Bob Davidson saw it from third base. He had the best angle. And to his credit, Greg Bonet, checking with Bob Davidson, who came in from third base, made the call, and no argument from Tony La Russa.
Here's another look at it.
Yep. Ball went down and then came up and then came off his bat.
Yeah, he bunted it twice.
And that is a foul ball. And with 2 strikes, you're out. It goes as a strikeout for Alan Embry. And the batter is Willie McGee with 1 out. Runners at first and second.
What a break. Bases loaded, nobody out. Wow.
That's something. Probably their best bunter at the plate. McGee's had a tough night. He's 0 for 5. But a dangerous hitter, batting right-handed. Fouls that one off.
By the way, isn't that the way the game is supposed to be played? The one umpire doesn't get it right. You can see why. He's screened on the play. The other umpire gets it right, and nobody argues. I think that's a class act.
Yep. I think Greg Bonet's done a great job behind the plate tonight in a very tense game, a scoreless game. Good off-speed pitch, 0-2.
He had a weak hack. There have been a lot of weak swings on both sides tonight.
That breaking ball was outstanding. It's the one that DeShields took for strike 2. McGee's average a little better right-handed. There goes Clayton. The pitch swung on and missed. McGee is out on strikes, but Clayton swipes third. Goulin didn't see him going, and he's still at first, and that's a break for the Braves.
I don't know if it is or not, because now you've got, that may get, well, Well, let's see. Yeah, Bobby Cox is going to come out. Maybe you walk Gant in another situation and have Embry pitch to the left-hand hitter. So I don't know what Goulan's thinking was.
Well, he's going to go to the bullpen. I thought, along with you, Skip, he might do that, but he's already made a motion to the bullpen, so the Braves are going to make another change. Alan Embry sends 4 batters. All 4 outs he records are by way of strikeout. The runners are at the corners with 2 out. We'll be right back after this Bell South call to the bullpen. There's Brad Klontz. You see the line scores. We're in the top of the 12th inning. The Cardinals trying to get the first run of the ball game across. They've got runners at the corners and Ron Gant at the plate. And instead of Alan Embry, he's going to be facing Brad Klontz, 2-0 on the year. This is his 16th appearance. 15 innings, 5 walks, 10 strikeouts. The league hitting .276 against him. Ron Gant is number 1 on their team hitting with runners in scoring position. He came into tonight's game at .393. Ray Langford is on deck. He's second on the team in that category at .385. The one luxury that Brad Klontz has in this situation, Skip, is that he does have room to maneuver around Ron Gant if he has to.
Yeah, and that does make a big difference. But we have Terrell Wade, I guess, could pitch out of the bullpen. And Joe Borowski is yet to pitch for Atlanta.
Borowski's pitched well of late.
They've got Frascatore, Painter, and Eckersley still available.
Gant tonight 0 for 4 with a walk. He has fanned twice. Runners at the corners and 2 out. Breaking ball taken for a strike. Everybody playing back. The outfield shading Gant a little bit, surprisingly, to right field. Is lofted in center. On the corner. Good pitch, 0-2. Now he doesn't have to throw him a strike. He can throw that hard sinker, or he can throw the slider. Try to make Gant chase one off the plate. Cardinals have 10 hits, the Braves 4, but were scoreless in the 12th. The 0-2 pitch. Got him to chase a bad one. What a job by Klontz. 3 pitches. He gets out of the jam. The Cardinals leave runners at the corners, and another runner stranded at third. We go to the bottom half of the 12th inning for the Braves. It'll be Grappanino, Blauser, and Lopez. No score. You see Brad Klontz on the Braves dugout with a smile on his face. That's because he came in and did a number on Ron Gant to end the top half of the 12th inning with runners on the corners. New pitcher for the Cardinals, John Frascatore, has been outstanding as well in their bullpen. He's 27 years old, 6'1", 210. Picked up his second win Wednesday in Philadelphia. He struck out 3 batters in the 2 innings he worked, and he has struck out 16 batters in 21 innings. Just given up 4 earned runs in 21 innings. His ERA 1.71. I'm going to show you those 3 pitches to Ron Gant. Ronnie took the first pitch, a good slider, good fastball on the corner, and then a sweeping breaking ball, and got him to chase it when he was behind 0-2. Great job by Brad Klontz. Frascatore, a hard thrower, will face Grappanino, Blauser, and Lopez here in the bottom of the 12th. No score. He's out of Queens, New York. Last year, spent most of the year at Louisville. He was 6-13. Started and relieved, but he has had 3 different stints with the Cardinals. And not only did Brad Klontz do a good job, but also Alan Embry, who struck out 4 batters in an inning and a third. And the was able to pitch out of that jam along with Ponce's help after giving up a leadoff double to Royce Clayton. No score. Grappanino has one at bat tonight. It was a base hit. He singled with one out in the 10th. Blauser singled into third, but the Braves couldn't score. Taking a strike, 1-1. Talked about how well Frascatore's pitched, but he has had some control problems. 9 walks in 21 innings. That's hit into the gap in right center field. Willie McGee on the run, hauls it in. Good play by the 38-year-old veteran. 1 out.
Tell you what, that Grappanino continues to impress you with his glove, his speed, and his bat.
He's got real good power to right center field. Showed us that in spring training. Jeff Blauser singled his last time up. He's 1 for 4. It fanned 3 times before that. Takes one high. Down to 390. Breaking ball missed. 2-0. I can't remember being involved in a scoreless game that went this long. Maybe I have been, but I don't remember it. Certainly not one that was as dominated by the 2 starting pitchers as this one was. There's a strike, 2-1.
Oh, this has been a terrific game. Strategy. Both teams have had their chances to score. Brilliant pitching.
Two-1 pitch. Fouled back. He was going for the downs. 2-2. After Blauser, it's Javi Lopez, and then the pitcher's spot. And Joe Borowski begins to tune up for Atlanta. Frascatore taking a lot of time getting his sign. 2-2 pitch. Got him. Schaefer dropped the ball, but throws him out. Jeff down on strikes for the 4th time tonight.
14 strikeouts. By the way, the Giants blew that lead, and they're tied going into the bottom of the 9th at Montreal. They led 11-1. I think it's 13-13. It's something like that.
You're right. Well, Javi Lopez can unbutton his shirt, air out the stadium if he wants to. 2 out, nobody on in the bottom of the 12th. Takes the first pitch, and it's a strike. How about this stat from Phil Simmons? 31 strikeouts on the night combined. Line into right field. That's going to drop for a hit. Braves have a runner with 2 down. And the last position player left for the Braves is Rafael Belliard. And he's going to hit for Brad Clontz.
I mean, no disrespect for Rafi, but I'd rather see Tom Glavine against a right-hander. Yeah, that's right. Glenn reminds me his hand might be the reason he's not up in this spot.
True. Belliard 4 for 11 on the year. 0 for 1 as a pinch hitter. And he better not put one anywhere near that first pitch near the strike zone. But of those 31 strikeouts, there's been a strikeout in every half inning tonight on both sides except for the top of the 4th.
What's scary is that anybody would notice it.
Thanks, Phil. First pitch, fastball hitter. hits it on the ground, but right to DeShields. Inning over. We go to the 13th. Zeros across. Cardinals and Braves scoreless. And a lucky 13 we go.
We go to the 13th inning here. Joe Borowski on to pitch for Atlanta, and he'll face Ray Langford, and I don't envy him that. He's a tough hitter to lead things off here. Langford tonight has not been quiet. He's 3 out of 5, a double included. He's also stolen a base. A good man to try to keep off base because of his speed. So the Braves are down to Terrell Wade in the bullpen.
And if this thing keeps going the way it's been going, Mr. Borowski might be out there
for a while. Yeah. Borowski completes his warm-up. Tosses. Montreal got a run in the ninth, beat the Giants 14-13. Giants had an 11-1 lead. Florida over the Pirates 3-1. Colorado beat the Mets 2-1. Cincinnati 4-2 over the Dodgers. Houston beat the Phillies 12-7, and earlier today Chicago 16-2 over the Padres. National League Finals, and Langford leads it off. How's your scorebook looking? Just about like mine. Right?
Yeah, just about out of columns.
Langford, then Gaetti. And then Danny Schaefer. Outside, 1 ball, no strikes. Borowski is the 7th Atlanta pitcher of the night. But outside of the starter, nobody's worked more than an inning and a third. He started to go and went. Bob Davidson with the call. It's 1-1. Clontz a third of an inning, Embry an inning and a third, Bird a third of an inning, Bilecki an inning, Wohlers an inning. He didn't mean to. Boy, there's a break if it's fair, but it dribbles foul. 1-2 the count.
It's kind of funny watching Borowski and Hobby go after that ball and seeing that blur run between them.
Well, he can motor. Minnesota beat the Red Sox 11-5. Texas shut out the Yankees 6-0. Toronto 15-2 over Cleveland. Detroit 10-2 over Kansas City. The other game's still underway. Milwaukee 1-0 over Anaheim in the 5th. Baltimore 4-1 over Seattle in the 5th. And the White Sox 1-0 over Oakland in the 3rd. All the other baseball up to the minute. 1-2 the count here, and Joe cuts it loose. Took a shot at the outside corner, didn't get it. It's 2-2.
Joe's pitched well every time he's been given an opportunity.
Foul to the screen, still 2-2. I think it's his first outing against the Cardinals in his brief major league career. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Same 2 teams tomorrow. Morris and Smoltz expected to go.
Borowski had 2 scoreless innings against the Pirates a few days ago in Pittsburgh.
Is 2-2. Got it. Langford out on strikes, 1 away in the 13th. That's Borowski's first strikeout.
Got him with a, looked like maybe a cut fastball on the outside corner.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I've got the Cardinals striking out 18 times in this game. Here's Gaetti. He's 2 out of 5. Cardinals have out-hit the Braves 10-5. Gaetti comes up empty. 0-1.
And the last 3, 4, 5, last 6 outs have been recorded by strikeout against the Cardinals.
Not this one, but the Braves will take it. Graffinino calls for it. 2 down.
You were talking about Kevin Elster earlier and what a bad break it was for the Pirates. He's on the disabled list and will be out 6 to 8 weeks with a broken left wrist. Last night, they lost Jermaine Allensworth, their center fielder. He broke his left hand. He's out 4 to 6 weeks. So this tremendous surge that they have had and the attention they've received suddenly getting rained upon.
That's a shame. There's a solid base hit for Schaefer, and I know what he's thinking as he runs to first. Why couldn't I have done it last time? So Schaefer's aboard with 2 out. And Gallego will be the batter. He bats for the first time in the game. He was with the Cardinals last year, played for Tony over at Oakland for several years. Defense is his specialty, really.
Spent a year with the Yankees, too, I believe.
A year and a half, in fact. Hit 283 for the Yanks. 2.5 years. Hit just 210 for the Cards last year. 0-1. Gallego out of UCLA. The Gallegos have twin boys, 16 years old, and a daughter. Mike's been around a while. Shortened a bunt, took it outside. A ball and a strike. We are in the 13th inning, and nobody scored yet.
A lot of people have wanted to.
Yeah, that's true.
There's been desire on both sides.
A lot of people have wanted one of the teams to, but many of those people are checking us out right now. Or Pete and Don on Braves radio. The 1-1. They chase him back. 2 out, runner at first. Have we said yet who is the 13th going to prove unlucky for?
No, but you feel free.
Well, who is the 13th going to prove unlucky for a stretch? Snap throw to first. He's back. A ball and 2 strikes. Schaefer's probably complimented by that throw. Keeping him close. He runs pretty well for a catcher. Clayton is on deck. It's also getting a little cold here at the Oval. Going outside. Javi pounces on it. 2-2 the count. If you've been watching another game and just switched over, you missed some great excitement earlier. Alan Bennis, 8 2/3 innings of no-hit baseball until Michael Tucker doubled into left center. Neither team has dented the scoreboard. Maddox and Bennis were both brilliant as starters, and both bullpens have risen to the fore. Either the bullpens have been great or the hitting's been awful. 2-2. Down the right field line on the run. The inning is over. Good play, Andrew Jones out there.
Wow, was that a great play.
That's a run if he doesn't get to that ball, and the inning comes to a close. Gallego hit the daylights out of it. 1 hit, no run, no errors, 1 left. Bottom of the 13th. Still tied.
We head to the bottom of the 13th, a scoreless tie here in Atlanta. And again, a reminder, still coming up after the game, it's going to be Mr. Destiny, James Belushi and Rene Russo star on Dinner and a Movie with Paul and Annabelle. Tonight they'll be preparing Predestined Cosmic Curry. I wonder what that Cosmic Curry has predestined for the Braves here in the bottom of the 13th.
I don't know, Joe, but if they've been cooking that Cosmic Curry since we've started talking about that movie, it's predestined to be a little tainted by now.
Well, it's simmering. It's simmering at the moment.
Oh, there's a little Bombay with that curry would be all right.
Yeah, well, they've turned the heat down a little bit, so maybe there's no Bombay around.
Yeah. Be that as it may, we go to the bottom of the 13th as the rules specify we must, and Kenny Lofton leads it off.
Looks like there's been a few sunflower seeds.
Yeah,
chewed up tonight.
They'll be blooming.
Everybody has been back in the clubhouse. John Holland in the visiting clubhouse. Casey Stevenson in the home clubhouse, trying to dig out new packs of sunflower seeds and bubble gum.
Do pitchers have to chart till it's over?
Absolutely. Jim Guadagno's probably gone through 2 or 3 pins.
He's probably suicidal by now.
And Boyd Odom still manning the radar gun, though, behind the home plate area.
Kenny Lofton leads it off. A little low, 1 ball, no strikes. He's walked twice. He's 0 for 3. This would be a lovely time to get him on base. Frascatore throws a strike, and it's 1-1.
Cam Bonifay of the Pirates is wondering if his scout is still on duty in this area.
He is.
He is still working. Boyd Odom's still down there.
Right in there, 1 and 2. Cam's got some problems of his own with those 2 injuries.
There's Mr. Odom.
The 1-2 pitch. Two and 2, close.
You might say that one whistled by the corner.
Just missed it by a hair. 2 and 2 at the count. Strike 3 called over the inside corner. Lofton didn't like that at all. He just turns and walks away, but he is talking a mile a minute.
Don't get thrown out now. There's nobody to play. Kenny in the past on a ball, well, I don't blame him. I'm afraid I'd have had to say something too. And in the past, anytime there's been a borderline call that went against him, he generally doesn't say much. He did have a parting shot for Greg Bonet on that one.
But he kept walking with his back turned and didn't show the umpire up. Outside to Tucker, who is 2 for 5 with a stolen base and a double. Chipper Jones is next.
Something tells me Chipper Jones would like to have an opportunity to do something this inning after his at-bat failing to bunt in the 11th.
2-0 pitch to Tucker. Swung, rifled off the glove of Gaetti into right for a hit. He's around first. He's going to stop there. McGee hustles in and picks it up. Well, there's a winning run aboard with 1 out. Tucker, 3 straight hits after 3 straight outs. Here's Chipper, 0 for 4 with a walk.
Gaetti moved from third to first a couple of innings ago. Tried to make the backhanded stab and injured himself a little bit. He was looking at his bare hand after the ball went by. But appears to be all right.
They don't have anybody left either. Chipper stands in there. Fast man at first, 1 out. Langford plays straight away in center. Frascatore bluffs the runner back. Back in '69, the Braves beat the Astros 3-2, a 0-0 game going into the 13th. Steve Reich outside corner. And on May 20th, 1989, the Cardinals beat Atlanta 1-0 in 13. Thanks, Phil. Unfortunately, the Cardinals can't beat us in 13 tonight.
No, sir. Only 2 other games in Atlanta history that have gone this far scoreless.
The 0-1 pitch. The old bluff to first trick. The 0-1 pitch. There he goes. Foul back. Boy, he had a great jump. But Chipper hacking away, got a pitch to his liking and fouled it back.
Yeah, he got a good pitch to hit. Fouled it off. Michael knew he had a good jump and was disappointed because he actually was able to take off before Frascatore even broke from his stretch.
returns to first base.
Pitch was a strike anyway. Chipper was hacking away at it. Had a pitch maybe to drive to the gap.
0-2 the count. How about a wild throw that rattles around in that right field corner? That would be nice.
It bounces off the tarp, goes down the right field line. Gaetti stumbles, falls.
Collides with
McGee.
We're wishing a little too much. 0-2 the count.
Picking, aren't we?
Frascatore can't get together with his catcher, so now they're going to have a meeting.
Well, how about this? How about a throw to first? It just eludes Gaetti. He tries to go retrieve it, but Eric Gregg falls on him.
No, that's a little too grisly.
Okay. How about a double in the gap then?
That'll work. Or, but it's 0-2. Took a shot the other way, but fouled it off. Still nothing in 2.
We started with 46,000 folks, and there are still a lot of people here.
We have just passed the 4-hour mark on this one, but it's been a terrific game. Oh, and 2 the count. There he goes. Inside, and the throw is late. High throw, and Tucker's in scoring position.
Man, did he get another good jump. It's a good thing he held onto the bag at second, too, because he hit the ground with a lot of speed.
His second stolen base of the night.
Again, he was guessing right. Great crossover step, and he hit the bag. Look, he lifted the bag up. That corner is lifted up off the ground. He had to hang on.
Wonder if there's a note under there.
Yeah, probably from Ed Mangan. Leave my
Leave
base
my
alone.
base alone. 1 and 2 the count. Fred McGriff on deck. Well, you've got a speedy runner out there. Base hit to the outfield. You like your chances. Especially as deep as the Cardinal outfielders play.
Here's kind of a tricky situation, though. You got first base open. Chipper's run doesn't mean anything, but you're ahead of him in the count.
Yeah.
You know how good he hits with runners in scoring position. So you don't mind walking him, but you don't want to give up this count either. You'd like to think you could get him out with a bad pitch.
The 1-2 drilled into right field. Back goes McGee. He's going to get there, makes the catch. Tucker alertly tags and races to third. Tough break for Chipper. He hit that ball right on the nose, but not quite far enough. And now the winning run is 90 feet away, but again there are 2 outs, and it's up to Fred McGriff.
Hit a good pitch. I thought he got enough of it to get it over McGee's head. But he made a nice lunging catch to save the day, at least for the moment, for the Cardinals. And Fred McGriff's up there, Skip, for the 3rd time in the last 2 games with 2 out and a runner at third base and a chance to win the game.
Yet another meeting here. They have first base open, of course. They could walk McGriff. They could also walk Andrew Jones and take their chances with Graffinino, but I don't know if they'd want to do that. What they're deciding is whether or not they're going to pitch to McGriff, who talks it over with Greg Bonet at home plate. Now Greg has to go out and break up this meeting. McGriff 1 for 4 that hit a home run against Frascatore. I'd be surprised if they pitched to him. But I've been surprised before in my long life.
We'll see how they play it.
They're going to...
Yeah, they're going to walk.
Put him on, and Andrew Jones will be the man on the spot. What about a wild pitch on that intentional walk? Not good.
Boy, he didn't mess around. He threw a bullet in there. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember you guys telling me stories about that wild extra inning game on July 4th when Rick Kemp hit the game winner.
Yeah.
Or hit the tying home run that sent it into another extra inning or 2. somebody come on in that game? Whoa!
I almost got my wish.
Yes, you did. Didn't somebody come into that game late defensively and hit for the cycle or something?
I think so, and I can't remember who it was. I think it was a left-hand
Who was it
outfielder
against?
for the Mets. The Mets. It was Dwight Gooden started the game.
Somebody didn't even start the game.
Was it Denny Walling, maybe? Somebody like that. I don't remember.
Pretty amazing stuff. Andrew had some good swings when he pinch hit back in the 11th inning.
It's all up to him if it's going to end in 13. Well, I hope he's all right. He dropped the bat.
He's hurt, and so is Bonet.
What got Bonet? The bat?
Yes, when it came out of Andrew's hands. Like got him on the hip.
That's just what he needs after 4 hours and 10 minutes out there. 0-1 the count. First and third, but 2 out. Just missed a ball and a strike. And the remaining fans are on their feet here in an effort to stay awake, perhaps. It's been a long night. The 1-1. Let's send them home happy. Didn't mean to. A little chopper back. Passed him on. And the Braves win the game. He didn't even mean to hit it, and the Braves win the ball game. You gotta like that if you're a Braves fan. Andrew Jones drives in the run with a check swing roller that just dribbled past the mound. Braves work on that a lot in spring training, Joe.
How do you explain a guy like Chipper hitting the ball a ton to right field, robbed of a hit by McGee, and then another guy comes up in the same inning and checks his swing and gets a game-winning hit? Sometimes it's not fair, and sometimes it's not how hard you hit him, but where you hit him. Delino DeShields made a great play and a great effort, but not in time with Jones' speed. Absolutely amazing.
Totals and highlights of a Braves win after this.
Sunday on the Superstation.
I will pay you to be at my beck and call.
Holy cow!
We're going to be spending an obscene amount of money in here.
Pretty woman walking down the street.
Jason Alexander, Richard Gere, and Julia Roberts
I want the fairy tale.
in the TBS premiere of Pretty Woman, part of TBS Destination Sunday. Sunday night at 9 Eastern on the Superstation.
You come to Home Depot, you want lawn and garden, we've got it.
Small plants, big plants, you got your trees.
Lawn mowers, we have shovels, rakes, any type tool that's pertaining to lawn and garden, we have it.
We make sure that every garden department has certified nursery people.
We're experts.
You get fresh plants, plus you'll get the lowest prices in town, and that we guarantee.
Kill pesky weeds and keep your lawn beautiful with Ortho Weed Be Gone. You'll find it at the guaranteed low price every day at the Home Depot.
Well, there it is. It's over. The Braves win it in 13 innings, 1-0, the final score. Our AutoZone player of the game is Alan Bennis, who worked 8 2/3 innings of no-hit baseball for the Cardinals. Finally gave up a hit in the 9th. He got no decision, but what an effort he put in. Tied his career high with 11 strikeouts. Congratulations to Alan Bennis, our AutoZone player of the game. But the Braves are the winners, 1-0. 1 run, 7 hits, no errors. They left 11 men on base. For the Cardinals, they stranded 12. Joe Borowski picks up the win. Joe Borowski 1-0 on the year. And John Frascatore takes the loss. He's 2-2. And the time of the game, 4 hours and 9 minutes. We had 46,626 here tonight.
Boy, a long night's work. What a way to end it, huh?
That was just
but an interesting
incredible
and exciting ball game. Our next Braves telecast tomorrow at 7:05. We start a half hour earlier. Again, the Cardinals will be the opposition. Coming up next on dinner and a late dinner and a movie, Paul and Annabelle will prepare predestined cosmic curry. That's for Mr. Destiny. And for Mr. Destiny, Joe Simpson, Pete Van Weer and Don Sutton, our TBS crew. Skip Carey from the ballpark. So long, everybody.